What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another exciting episode of the Viall Files Reality Recap Edition. I'm your host, Nick, joined by the household. We have a lot to get into. It is election day. Get out and vote. Whoever you want to vote for, do your patriotic duty and use your right to vote. And then listen to, while you're waiting, I don't know, who knows what's going to happen, but just know that we have Ashley from Love is Blind tomorrow for just a electric episode of Going Deeper. We obviously will get into the reunion later this episode. We have Ramses joining us today as well, which hopefully we get some answers there too, because again, Nick and Vanessa really just doing their thing at the reunions. But if you were left wanting more, that's why we are here. So while who knows what's going on with the election, who knows, I mean, when we're going to find out, God knows what, but just know we are here for you to keep your mind off the chaos.
We are also here pun-free.
Yeah. No puns.
No puns.
We are...
No dad jokes.
No dad jokes,
no dad jokes, just straight facts and fun here at the Viall Files. We also have Emily Baker returning to the show. She is going to help us break down Real Housewives of OC. Obviously, we had the arrest of Ryan's friend.
Yeah. But he was at the party talking about like how
having
he's a criminal.
money launderer?
Yeah, that was crazy.
I'm pretty sure he admitted to a crime there.
They were joking.
Yeah.
Well,
So
I
there's that aspect.
don't think juries care about jokes.
Crazy thing to say at a party on TV when you're being investigated.
I was going to say, I also don't know that he realized that two out of the 5 people in that circle are mic'd up.
Yeah.
He said it.
Yeah.
I don't know if he was joking. I think he was trying to be funny.
He was trying to be funny, and I think it was in context as well of like Tamra attacking him.
But I'm
at a
pretty sure
different
just
party.
having a money launderer illegal, right?
Yeah.
There's no legal
Yeah.
reason to
Point
have
blank,
a money launderer, right?
No, I
No.
mean, because the only reason to have a money launderer is when you're
'Cause you're doing
laundering
your-
money.
Because you're doing right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Illegal.
That's why we
It's
have
like,
Emily
this is my
here.
money
Yeah.
launderer. I just keep him here for
Yeah.
fun.
Anyways.
He also helps me with my laundry.
Yeah. We have
Oh, that's
a
what he meant.
coin
Oh.
business. It's really over the mark.
The legal expert that she is, Emily will answer some of our legal questions later this episode. Maybe she'll have some tea about the Menendez brothers and P. Diddy. Really, she is an encyclopedia of legal knowledge, and we are excited to have Emily back with us. Once again, knowledge, unfortunately, well, I mean, I am happy for me, but I'm running away with this, guys. This Vibes or Stats segment of the Viall Files is brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios no-shell flavors come in a variety of flavors, including chili roasted, honey roasted, sea salt and vinegar, smoky barbecue, sea salt and pepper, jalapeno lime, and the newest seasonal limited time edition, sweet cinnamon. With a wide range of flavors, there's a Wonderful Pistachios product for every taste bud and occasion, from your game time gatherings or for taking them on the go. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
I can tell you I'm not sad about losing this to you.
Yeah, I also am like, you can for sure have it. I mean, like,
If you were losing, I would be sad for you.
Yeah, the concept
Yeah.
of this is pretty much for us to lose.
For us to have fun.
Guys,
and
Yeah.
the bid is for you guys
knowledgeable.
to want to win.
I
But
wanted
the-
to win, but it was a
Ah.
setup. This was inevitable that
Yeah.
yeah.
the first
But
2
it's okay.
weeks, the first 2 weeks is where we were winning.
Yes.
Mhm. 'Cause
And
that
that's what
doesn't count.
counted.
It's an early season. You guys can come back.
How long do you get to say it's an early season for?
Well, we're halfway through.
Okay.
We're halfway through the season.
Yeah.
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 But
Glass half full.
Yeah.
Versus glass empty. I guess we'll just have to see.
thank you, Wonderful Pistachios, for sponsoring this segment of the Viall Files. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more.
What is going on in the pop culture world?
Margot Robbie is a mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She was son.
Yay, a
She has a baby boy.
Oh, baby boy.
She's gonna crush.
This was reminding me just how insane the internet is. The amount of tweets I saw about Barbie fans being mad that Margot Robbie had a
Really?
boy and not a girl is, well, I shouldn't say shocking because it's the internet, but disturbing.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Who
Yeah.
cares?
People are mad that she's
There-
anyone who is like
They- 'cause
mad that the
waste-
gender of their
I
child is
saw-
like so fucking
I
weird
saw
to
a
me.
tweet that suggests wasted opportunity because, this boy won't appreciate as Barbie as their mom.
Okay, what if he was cool?
And maybe she's raising an anti-Ken. You don't know. You
Or
don't
she
Also,
Yeah.
know.
why
Yeah.
can her son grow up to be a Barbie fan?
Like
what are...
Weird.
Anyways, yeah.
I do wonder if Margot Robbie will have the same issues that I have. Leia, I wonder if you struggle with this as well. But it is that of intrusive thoughts. And like, I thought that I was just like sick in the head. And it would be like anytime we did absolutely anything, I would like picture the worst thing happening. It's like every time we're in the car, I'm like, I go through this green light and like an 18-wheeler is going to run the red light and hit us. It's like or it's like River is doing something and she's going to fall and have a concussion, or she's going to like go to bed and then she's going to sleep on a concussion. She won't wake up. It's like these terrible, terrible, terrible thoughts. And I was like, oh my gosh, like what is wrong with me? Am I manifesting these thoughts? Like what the fuck? And then we were at this event and I was talking to Sharna and Brian Austin Green, and I was telling Sharna about it just as like, you know, oh my God, this and this crazy. And she was like, no, I have the exact same things. And
I feel like I've had those thoughts.
you have?
Yeah, you go down a thought and where you're just like, that would be terrible if that happened.
But I guess I just thought like, am I fucked up in the head for like thinking these like terrible things? Like, why can't I just be like appreciative of this moment? But no, it's like I have to think of like her falling or her anything. And Sharna was like, no, the same thing happened to me. And she's like, she gave me a really amazing piece of advice of just like thanking them for coming into your head and like bringing, you know, you're like, okay, now I am aware that like an 18-wheeler could come through and I need to be more cautious and I need to like just be more present and like, thank you for bringing this into my head instead of like trying to suppress it.
I would be terrified. Like, you know, all the Black Mirror episodes, they talk about these crazy concepts. Like, I hope there's not the technology one day to read our minds. And then, because like we are, as human beings, I think we're supposed to have crazy thoughts sometimes that pop in, we process and pop out. I think the difference between crazy isn't whether we have these thoughts or not. It's what we do with these thoughts when they enter in our head. Like,
if you act on it.
we act on them. Yeah. Like sometimes having a crazy thought is to remind us how sane we are when we go, oh my God, that was just, like, ooh, get out of my head, you know, that type of thing. So I think it's very normal to have those thoughts. Yeah. And like they come in and they kind of make us either, it's like a fight or flight thing almost.
I also
right?
think it's normal because you're like all of a sudden raising this baby and have to keep it alive, that I'm like, you're thinking about so many other things that you wouldn't think about day to day. And I can say like, I held your baby and the entire time I'm like, please don't drop this. Please don't, you know what I mean? Where it's like, of course I'm not going to like let go of my arms, but it's like, there's a thought in your head that's like, oh my God, like what if? So I'm like, I think it's pretty normal.
Yeah.
Also, isn't it the reason that women and like mothers are more drawn to true crime is because they're living out the possibility of something just so they can prepare for like their actual experience?
Heard about that.
Like I think that's like a psychological thing that happens because women are more likely to endure it, so they like prepare themselves.
We just learned something new right now about ourselves.
I feel like when you have a baby too, it's like or like a baby or just like something so innocent. Of course, your brain's gonna manifest like all of the awful things could happen to this like innocent being.
Well, if that's the part that's like scary to me is like, am I manifesting it? Like, am I like is me thinking about these things like a sick version of myself, like hoping they happen? No,
I think it's just a reaction to the world that you live in.
Yeah,
you know.
Leia, do you have the same?
I do 100% all the time. Like I'll be holding him and I'll just be like, what if I just dropped him right now?
It is crazy. I mean, I truly thought, and thank God for Sharna being like, babe, you are not alone. Like I had terrible, terrible thoughts. And just to be like, you just need to thank them for coming.
Too. Yeah.
It means you care.
I do care. Yeah. I would be like, oh my God, bitch, what's wrong with you? Like you need help. Like, why would you think that? Why would you think that just because like she swallowed a little bit of water in the bathtub that she's going to like have delayed drowning and like not wake up? Like, why would you think that? And then it's like, no, that's an intrusive thought. And like, she's fine. And you know, thank you for.
I think that every night when I'm like, he's been fed and then he's sleeping and I'm just like, what? He's going to be just choking at night.
Yeah. Or it's like, is she breathing? Is she breathing? She's probably not breathing. Is she? And they're just like not breathing.
I've put like my hand on River's back or laid my like ear against her chest just to make sure she's breathing. You know, like I've definitely done that. I know
do that all the time. The breathing check all the time.
It's such a crazy. Margot, hope you you know,
did you have intrusive thoughts before?
Definitely not to this extent. I mean, I've always had a like intruder syndrome where I always feel like tonight someone's going to break in. Tonight I'm going to be killed. Like I feel like I've always struggled with that, but it's like intensified now that we have a child. But the intrusive thoughts like are really wild and are crazy.
Well, speaking of caring too much, James Van Der Beek had to apologize to his loved ones. Well, first of all, sad news. James Van Der Beek has been diagnosed with some kind of cancer. Hopefully they caught it in time, but he is now apologizing to his loved ones who had to find out of his cancer diagnosis through the media. Well, did his cancer diagnosis get leaked?
Allegedly, yeah. A tabloid had planned to leak the information.
That's fucked up.
So I think it got out through that. Yeah.
Well, then that makes sense for him to be like, you know, I'm sorry that's how you found out that way. Like, that's definitely not how.
I don't think James Van Der Beek has to apologize.
I don't think he has to either. I think he probably felt like, you know.
No, I hear you there. But I hope that no one in his family made him feel like they were frustrated with him because, like, I mean, this is obviously a very sensitive issue, but like this happens all the time where it's just like we didn't like go down the list of every person we knew when we got engaged to make sure that we like let them know before we posted about it,
Yeah.
you know? But sometimes people feel a certain way about that. And it's just like, it always like reminds me like how self-centered people are when they make your day about themselves. Like you don't,
Yeah.
I'm not checking with my entire circle of influence or my friends to make sure like you're good on my day, whatever my day is or my moment.
When I got engaged, I posted a story right after because I kind of just wanted to be hands-free and not be on my phone for the rest of the afternoon. And I had friends who were actually upset with me that I didn't FaceTime them and tell them before I posted it on my story.
All your friends thought in that moment like their feelings were more important than your engagement.
And I felt bad too. I was like,
No, I'm sure you did because
If
you're a
there's
nice
something
person.
wrong-
If I had to guess, I would say James Vanderbeek is a people pleaser and probably just felt very much like
Well,
Yeah.
Well,
so
we-
he specifically said there's no playbook for how to announce these things, but I plan on talking about it at length with People Magazine at some point soon to raise awareness and tell my story on my own terms. But that plan had to be altered early this morning when I was informed that a tabloid was going to run the news. So he was
That's so
basically pressured to
gross.
release the
yeah,
information.
it's
It is
fucked.
gross. I feel like that statement, like, it's a very disgusting thing when tabloids like leak information that's so personal and so like just unethical.
We talked about this on Plus
Yeah.
last week, where like Perez Hilton has made a career on leaking information.
Mm.
Why isn't that illegal?
Which-
like why is it
To some
like
degree, it
HIPAA
has
law?
become.
Yeah.
It's like why
illegal.
doesn't tabloids have to follow the same like HIPAA laws that like I mean I know they're not doctors, they're not taking the oath, but like people's medical information shouldn't be like so freely passed around.
Well, I think with the tabloid, it's already past HIPAA. I think HIPAA really only like works.
No, yeah,
within
and I
our
don't think it's going to be a
hospital.
HIPAA thing, but it just seems wrong that people are allowed to just talk about people's health so freely, like media
Yeah.
outlets.
I mean,
don't know.
when Kate, the royal, when she had
Yeah.
cancer, I mean, her situation was different, but
Or like when TMZ like released information about like Kobe Bryant's death
Yeah.
before
Oh,
his
yeah.
family knew. It's just like
oh yeah.
I feel like the James Vanderbeek thing, though, a lot of it is like that statement was kind of him trying to take the narrative back from
I
that
agree.
tabloid versus like
Like-
it wasn't an apology. It was like fuck
It's him
you.
being like, I'm going to put this out so now every news article can write about
And
it.
I'm
and
talking
not
about
this
it with
one
people.
thinking they have
Yeah.
like.
I say,
I will say that that's my biggest problem right now, even with the Margot Robbie and people being upset that she had a boy, that I feel like us as a society are way too entitled to other people's personal information. That, like, the fact that, are you going to make a bunch of money by releasing somebody's health diagnosis? Probably. But I'm like, there's just no ethics, nothing that goes into it. And yet you feel like you're giving society something that they needed to know. That doesn't
Mhm.
change anybody's life. Knowing about James Vanderbeek's health diagnosis, but you did just put him in a situation where now he has to speak about something
and
that's
now we're
none of our
talking about it.
business.
Yeah.
I will say on the flip side, though, there's celebrities like Tom Holland where they just completely off the grid, like not on Instagram.
I love him.
And now recently in an interview, Tom was asked what was the last thing he Googled. And basically he fessed up to and said, well, sometimes I Google Zendaya. So his girlfriend. And basically he said, the last thing I Googled was actually Zendaya. I'm not on social media and I delete it when I'm not using it. So sometimes like it's more a bit of an anxiety thing, but I'll check to see if everything's good and to make sure we're all cool.
Interesting.
So like just checks. He'll just look and be like,
It's very vulnerable for him to admit, but
Yeah.
it's like,
Can't he just text her?
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It's just like, you good?
but it's a
yeah, like why do you need to
Yeah.
know like what like the tabloid headlines are spreading about like your girlfriend?
But I will say I saw a really cute video of them. I don't remember where they are, but it's like paparazzi
Yeah.
is just flooding her and he like realizes that she's not right behind him and he's like pushing
I
people
saw
out of
that
the way. And I
too.
was like, yes, my little short
Short
king.
king.
I do
Yeah.
love
Killed
that.
it.
Tom Holland and I, one thing in common, we both like to Google Zendaya sometimes.
Y'all have that in common.
yeah.
Do you
You do.
Google Zendaya?
I've definitely Googled Zendaya,
Okay.
you know?
one of my flexes is I saw Zendaya perform at the Sacramento State Fair way before she was famous.
What was
Shake
the
It Up
last
era?
What was the last thing y'all Googled? Why don't you pull it up?
Hackers.
Let's
Why don't
see.
you pull it
I have
up?
private on, so I can't check.
Oh my god, mine is who won football.
Mine is when was Da Vinci alive?
Mine is Wah song.
Oh my god!
You know the song that's like,
Ooh,
"Wah!"
yeah.
I took a picture of my cat
Where's
and he was
my-
yawning. It looked like he was screaming, and I wanted to put that in the Instagram.
Just pull
bio.
up your browser. It'll be the last thing on your browser.
No, it just my main screen, and then it goes to Shopify.
You know what would really
No,
expose you?
it says November.
Heck.
What's happening?
Search history. It just gives me the first.
What was the last thing you searched
Did you
on
not look at your
Instagram?
phone
He'd
the last
be
2
clear. He'd be
days?
clearing his
It's just straight.
Delete, delete,
I swear to
delete.
God. I swear to God. And I had to do.
He's like, it's so crazy. Like, my history's just gone.
I haven't Googled
It's like,
anything since October.
That's crazy. Someone must have like hacked
No.
my phone or something.
God.
Suddenly he doesn't know how to use a phone.
Mine was best erotic thriller books.
Wait, what did it show? What was
Are
the
you
result?
feeling unsatisfied at home?
Nick
needs
goes
a
to
little
bed and I'm Nick. As
Nick
soon as we
has
get,
deleted
no,
search history you ever run.
She's got fairy smut.
Nick, literally, we get in bed and Nick's like, all right, good night. And I'm like,
Read a chapter.
and he took off her panties.
While her wings fluttered.
That's so funny.
It's a wild concept.
Wow.
That is crazy. Anyways,
Brings a whole new meaning to fairy dust.
A
Anyway,
whole new meaning. How are
Just-
you feeling about Martha Stewart complaining about Ryan Reynolds, Nick?
yeah, your best friend.
Your bestie, Nick.
We're not best friends. I am.
Not
Sounds
yet.
like your best
Yeah,
friend.
Not yet.
no, Nick is a big fan of Ryan.
Are you trying to Travis Kelsey Taylor Swift Ryan Reynolds?
Say more. What do you mean?
Oh, interesting.
Like
Like putting a
Travis,
sh- like shooting my shot
shooting your
friendship
shot,
bracelets?
shooting your shot on the
Yeah.
pod.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
We'll take
Right.
that.
I aspire to be friends with Ryan Reynolds for sure.
How
Yeah.
did it make you feel when Martha Stewart said that she says her neighbor
what's
is Ryan
the-
Reynolds?
Yeah. What's the
and
quote? Say it.
She said, is not so funny in real life. He's very serious. He can act funny, but he isn't funny.
I felt triggered.
And you want to know something? He's not so funny in real life, she insisted. No, he's not so funny. How many times did you say that? I mean, good Lord. She's like,
You know
Where
what?
did she- where did-
I don't
where
know
did
if she got my point across, but
Where
he's
did
not
she
funny.
say this?
Well-
Do you know what is very funny? That quote.
It was in an interview with Built, and basically she continued on saying he's probably on the list just because he covers himself up in his movies and you don't see his face. Is
For an
he one
event?
of those question mark?
One of those what?
Like
Those people?
that just like say they're funny but aren't funny.
Well, the internet thinks
is-
he's funny.
This is very
Yeah.
Ariana Maddox on Vanderpump Rules being like, you guys obviously don't take sketch comedy
Yeah.
very seriously.
No, I just the idea that you're
Yeah.
A, supposed to perform for your neighbors, and B, like I would say what 80-90% of the people in the like comedy business or entertainment industry like don't walk around life being funny. I met Kevin Hart once, didn't make me laugh. Like
Right. Well, and you have a point. So she's neighbors with him. So some interaction she's had with him outside of like a performing context is what she's basing it on.
also like Ryan Reynolds is like never like claimed to be a comedian. Like he can write a good joke, right? He's
Yeah.
obviously creative and funny. Like
Well, he did tweet a response
Yeah.
saying, I disagree with her, but I tried that once. The woman is unexpectedly spry. She really closed the gap after a mile or so.
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I mean he
Yeah.
can write a good joke. Like he's not a
See,
I-
but was that response funny?
it
It
wasn't his
was.
best work. I don't think. You know.
I thought it was a little,
I
I
don't
thought it was
know.
like a little, haha, cheeky.
Here's
I
the
was
Yeah,
thing.
I thought it was, you know,
Martha
it's
Stewart
Trying to
isn't
write a
funny.
joke in response to someone calling you not funny is maybe the hardest thing to do. Though.
It
fine.
is.
right.
So I
And
do
he-
have to kind of, I guess, give him credit for that.
Yeah.
That's true.
Also,
and then his best friend /
Hugh
internet
Jackman.
enemy said
Mm.
someone had to say it or something.
Jackman.
Finally someone
Hugh
said it. He
Jackman.
said it. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's
it's
a funny guy. Hugh Jackman.
No, but like obviously Martha Stewart's an icon for all the obvious reasons, whether it's her being an ex-con or friends with Snoop Dogg, or the fact that she is like the MacGyver of the kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
also, if I met
Martha
Martha Stewart, be like,
Stewart.
well, she didn't teach me how to bake cookies. Like what? Like I don't know. I don't.
Ryan Reynolds didn't like get shot in the chest and come back as Deadpool. Is that the whole thing that he does?
Well, he's
he doesn't die.
Deadpool.
Yeah.
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 Deadpool can't die.
Essentially, yeah.
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 I mean, Martha's not funny, right? Her existence is funny.
Um,
I
but
think
she's
she
not
can be
funny.
I think
funny.
she's a comedy queen.
You think so?
Yes.
She can be funny. I think for sure. I don't like Ryan Reynolds checking his mail the same time Martha is, and for him be like, "Hey, good morning," and her be like, "Well, that wasn't funny." So it feels like a little
like
weird.
okay.
I don't
I'm
know.
sorry. Like, is he not? I imagine a lot of times he probably is a pretty serious guy.
Do you
Maybe-
guys ever hide from your neighbors?
Yeah, all the
100%.
time.
All
so
the
that's the
time.
thing. Sometimes I look through the peephole and I'm like, okay, are they outside? Okay,
I wanna
it's my
know-
time to go.
I want to know the neighbor beef between Ryan Reynolds and Martha Stewart.
That's the thing.
I want to know
She's
how it
waiting outside.
started.
She's
She is
waiting
wa-
outside.
No,
or
the-
is he waiting outside? Like, did she say
She's
this
going in the back
because-
door.
The problem with my neighbors is they're like my two neighbors on each side, incredibly kind.
Mhm.
So kind
Yeah.
and outgoing and want to get to know us, and they like force us to be engaging, but I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Like,
Sometimes you want to take out the trash in your underwear and not be confronted.
yeah.
Same.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we don't need to talk about everything.
I tell you what, if I do want to take the trash out of my underwear, I definitely do not want to be talking to my neighbors.
That's what I'm
about it.
saying.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to tell a joke. I don't
Yeah.
want to have to
To
share an
giggle.
You're like, man,
anecdotal
I'm just
story.
trying to take my trash out. They want me to do a tight 5 in my tidy whiteies.
You know who is funny? Marissa from Love is Blind. I'm sorry. There's the PR backlash after.
No, the
Whether she's
backpedaling
serious-
was great.
No,
Her
Backpedaling.
behavior is,
Funny.
well, if you say it, well,
Funny,
Well,
haha.
like we're laughing at her.
No.
Oh.
Like, I think she's like, well, I don't know what she's doing.
Like
but
funny, like
Ha-ha.
off. Like,
off.
She is
that's-
shitting
yeah,
the
like it's
bed.
off.
Yeah.
She's shitting the bed is what
Yeah.
she's doing.
And I love
She is-
Marissa, but it's a little
Well, that's the
questionable.
thing. It's like we love Marissa, but like lately it's kind of like Marissa,
Well, I
we
think
loved you.
yeah. I think the behavior at the reunion was gross for my opinion. Like Hannah. Yeah, I mean, I just didn't appreciate Marissa like really honing in on like
Nick D.
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's like what
same.
we're just sending like hate. Like now we want like you got enough hate. Now it's like okay, now everyone go attack him for like not thinking I'm attractive as soon as he saw me. It's like
It's the best friends for me that I was like at the reunion. She was like dying on the hill that this is my best friend and I know everything. And Nick, you're not being forthcoming. And then does what? Good Morning America. And then it was like,
No, for-
Good Morning Washington.
Yeah,
Good Morning
for the people who
Washington.
don't know, the local like news show, like they're all from DC. They had a panel of a handful of the people from the show. Marissa was
Mhm.
being one of them, and completely walked back her comments. It was like, well, we're not like best friends. Like we're like friends on the show, and
She was like,
yeah,
and I don't stand by her behavior. Like the way she treated Nick was unacceptable.
stand
and,
by.
Like,
Like you were literally,
you jumped in.
yeah,
Tag team.
sure. She was like, no, girl, you're doing enough. Let me help.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
I don't think we've eviscerated him bad enough. Boom.
meanwhile, like we
Crazy
got
reunion.
nothing from her out of the whole Ramses of it all.
Besides the fact that they were still fucking.
Well,
that was just randomly thrown
How do
in
we
there.
know?
Yeah.
Like,
She was
still at the reunion?
berating Nick, and then she's like, "We all make mistakes or do stupid things. I was fucking this man," and it was just like, "Whoa."
Whoa, yeah.
And we
Because he
just-
was like, well, if you were so mad at me for like these comments, why'd you call me like after? And then Marissa was like, we all have done. That's why I kept fucking
Well,
him. And
first
it's
of all,
like,
I think Ramses' comments about birth control and condoms have nothing to do with whether Marissa continues to fuck him or not. Like it's a separate criticism. It doesn't let Ramses off the hook, like for his comments. And like we've
no.
all we've all had sex with people or gone back with people we know aren't right for us. Like I don't fault Marissa for having a weak moment. Like that has nothing to do with how she's handling the hand of it all.
We're not saying that. I think it's just that we're saying the fact that like we got nothing from their conversation. The only thing we did get is like to find out that
Sure.
they continued fucking.
I feel like Marissa's mom did tap in though.
Marissa's mom,
I ate
awesome.
everything she said. I was like,
Yup.
oh.
she was stirring the fucking
She was
pot.
like,
her
Shannon,
leaning
making
over to
that
Katie
promo.
and being like,
Well, she made you feel that way the whole time.
Yeah.
for a whole year made you. And honestly, valid fucking question.
Valid question. Yeah.
Like, don't just move on.
Marissa's mom is like, y'all aren't friends at all.
It's-
Yeah.
yeah.
They aren't. They're not even not best
No.
friends. They're barely even friends. For Marissa to like backtrack her comments like she did so quickly. And what's that? And I'm curious, like she really gave Ramses a window in redemption. And I'm curious to hear Ramses' thoughts when we talk about him because like,
You're
listen,
saying Marissa did.
Marissa gave during the reunion and in the interview with that DC show, she gave like, I am willing to lean into the popular narrative. She is willing to throw someone under the bus, for her own benefit or her friend's benefit, right? So like it suggests that, she wouldn't go against the grain if she thought it would benefit her publicly.
Because you're saying the switch up, right? Where it's like she went in on Nick and now she's friends with Nick.
She
Or
yeah,
appears.
Even when she came on here, we were talking about how Hannah wasn't treating Nick nicely, and she agreed with us.
Yeah, but
And
she called her
then
best
at the
friend.
reunion,
She called her
was-
best friend on our show too. So
I think you can be best friends with her and be like, I don't support her actions. Like watching that was hard to watch because it's, I think, hard to watch for anyone. But then to not even like hold her accountable at the reunion when clearly Hannah has not learned a damn thing. I mean, like she showed no remorse. She showed zero. It's like, yeah, I'm direct. Yeah. Like, I guess he was patient with me.
I should work
Yeah.
on that. Meanwhile,
Yeah.
she wanted to like get even. Nick did the right thing where she's like, hey, I just want to point out that Hannah is a really good, nice person. She doesn't deserve the hate. And then she took that opportunity to then try to throw him under the bus, be like, well, why are you liking their comments? I would be willing to bet that some of the comments he allegedly liked, where he was maybe liking people defending him and not criticizing her, would be my guess. That being said, like, yeah, it's just like also, yeah, the whole like, admit you thought I was ugly, admit you thought I looked like an grenade. Like, what? Like this, the whole thing we liked about Nick is that like he didn't take the bait from producers about like maybe how he might really feel. And he chose to like not be problematic. He chose to maybe keep some of his opinions to himself because he thought some of those opinions might be hurtful. And so what? Then he had an off-camera conversation with his boys. His boys, like everyone just being honest with how they feel. And those boys, some of which include Steven, someone we clearly can't trust, who has no integrity, throws Nick D under the bus. And we're what? And you want us to now hate Nick D because he still refuses publicly to like disparage Hannah? I don't like Hannah wants to be like, call me ugly, call me ugly, call me ugly, just so that she can like have the internet shit on him.
And it's also like we watched this entire season and maybe he said that, but he showed zero actions of thinking that. I mean, he stood by her side the entire time. He was like wanting to work through it. He was like okay with her talking so down to him. Like he never once was like, well, I'm not really attracted to you. Like he never once let it slip that maybe he's not 100% attracted to her. And so I think that like shows me enough that he, you know, like maybe you heard this from someone and maybe that is like where some insecurities came in and why you were treating him the way that you were. But his actions never once showed that, at least from what we saw.
Well, the specific word was underwhelmed, was what they kind of like got down to what he said.
That
is when the
he
reveal
rated
happened,
her like a 5 out of 10 or something.
Well, that's what they said,
was?
but then he chalked it up to being like, I said I was underwhelmed. So I mean, we still don't know exactly what was said.
I'm sorry, like when you girls get together and you talk your shit or whatever it is, you fine, talk your shit, do your thing. You know, girls get together, you guys talk about shit. Boys get together, like these are meant to be private conversations. Hey, certainly within reason, but like you don't get to go and then have like someone spy on this conversation who wants to like, you know, either be like a pick me or a guy. Well, I guess pick me can go both ways, but then to like be like, hey, you know what Nick D said in the middle of this conversation where no one was supposed to hear about that, and we also probably said a bunch of shit too. But yeah, he called her a 5.
But it's also like you said you weren't attracted to him either. You were like, oh my God, he lied. He said this. He said that. The only difference is you said it to the camera. You said it to the world, and he said it to his boys. And then for Ramses to sit next to him and be like, okay, now's the time to take accountability. It's like wild. You're the one who wants to say it's time to take accountability, but you've sat here mute for the last hour.
He wouldn't even look. He was like looking forward.
And
ridiculous.
And the applause for it too, where it's like, really? Because he spoke up one time. Also, her putting him on blast about the notebook thing, where it's like you and your friends went through his stuff. Like,
weird.
That to me, where I'm like, you lost all credibility when you started off with my friends thought it would be fun to go through his thing.
And,
you're a bully.
Yeah.
And did y'all see that she posted said notebook on her Instagram story?
What?
Yeah.
Oh, did she? So she took a photo?
That's so
A
gross.
friend of hers posted it, and she reshared it onto her story. And
like after the reunion dropped?
This
girl
screams
has
to me,
Hannah.
I'm trying to be the most famous person from Love is Blind.
Thank you.
Also, yes, I don't care. They're all trying to be famous. They win on TV. They all have their Instagrams active and on.
Yeah.
For a show
They're
to get
all
married in 30
they're
days.
all making TikTok sounds to cheeky trending music. They're all
quickest.
trying to go viral. All of them. Every single one of them.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Yep.
All
Imagine
of you,
going
except
on
for
Love
Nick
is
D.
Blind and you're like, I don't want any attention.
Yeah, I'm deleting my
No one look
Instagram.
at
No
me.
one follow me. No one follow me.
I just really came on here for love.
She did look snatched on that couch. Makeup was fire.
Hannah?
Yeah.
Yeah, she looked good.
Honestly, everyone looked great. Ramses came in with his little villain outfit. I will say he was giving a little villain. And I'll ask him about if he chose that for a reason.
Taylor gave Trophy Wife
I was going to say.
that outfit. I was like, I don't know how she's sitting in it.
Taylor
but
and
I'm
Garrett were eating.
impressed.
Garrett
Yeah.
was the voice of reason. I
He
feel like.
was.
Yeah.
He
For
was
every
you guys are
little
all
like
stupid.
grill, he would just say one thing.
Yeah, Garrett's face the whole time was just like,
And we will be talking with Garrett and Taylor next Wednesday for a groundbreaking episode of Going Deeper. We'll get all of their answers about the reunion, their relationship. They've been married over a year. We'll actually get to talk to the couples that you didn't get to hear from at the reunion. They have a little insight about the reunion. It's really quite fascinating as well. But also, yes, Steven. Yuck.
Him making the joke about the
Amen.
meat trying to get to his segment that much faster. Like,
Yeah.
homeboy, calm down. And even then, you gave us literally nothing.
Nothing. He's like, well, I'm not going to explain it because no one's going to believe me. It's like, well, we're not believing you because you're not explaining anything.
Just say
Yeah.
something.
And you're still lying. He was like, oh, I don't remember. And then he started
I deleted the
describing the
chat.
Reciting
conversation.
the text.
And then he made it seem like it was just like 2 sentences. And then Monica was like, no, there were fucking paragraphs.
I
Well-
deleted the text. I never delete a text thread.
Yeah.
What?
He said
What is it?
he said he only talked to her that day, and then Monica's like, well, there was a whole thing. And he's like, well, I knew her before.
For years. I've never met her in person because I met her on Instagram.
And I
I was
actually
like,
do
well-
believe that. I absolutely believe he's never
What is-
met her in person.
Sure.
Yeah, but they
Yeah.
definitely messaged before.
Oh yeah, like
I mean, he wasn't wrong when he went on his high horse, or not high horse, but soapbox, and was like, no matter what I say here, you guys are gonna hate me. That part I was like, okay, you're
yes,
not wrong.
but
You're not
because
wrong.
you're a proven
you're not
liar.
Try. Give us
Something to like
Self-awareness,
root
though.
for.
True.
No.
The crowd
No, that's not
applauded
self-awareness.
Ramses.
That's playing the victim.
He was playing the
when
victim,
you're
yes,
not
I
the
agree.
actual victim.
He knew
Yeah.
there was no saving, so I think
Yeah.
he was just like,
The way that he was like the casual conversation of just like, hey, what have you been up to? So I'm into some new fetishes, but I just had to ask as a friend.
No, it was like it started because she like reached
Heart
out about like a
conditioning.
heart condition, and then it turned to fetishes, and it's like I mean, I guess.
might as well
but,
ask about it.
Are you a doctor, sir?
And his excuse was like something along the lines of like, well, old me would have done this and I wanted to see what new me would do. And it's just like, to Monica's point, bro, don't be showing up to Love is Fucking Blind pretending that you're ready to get in marriage when this is not the show to find yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like,
Or to challenge yourself to see if you've like overcome demons.
no,
and,
challenge
like,
yourself to see if you have like
Yeah.
any type of character whatsoever.
Yeah, like run a marathon. Do something do something different.
oh my God.
Like-
Oh my God! Did you see at the New York Marathon someone held up a sign
Yeah,
that said,
Lisa wants to go to the dentist.
Lisa wants to go to the
Lisa go to the
dentist.
dentist.
Yeah,
I
that
saw
was really funny.
That made me laugh.
That was really great.
I saw a pregnant woman holding a sign that was like, "We all know you know how to finish."
Oh.
Period.
Man, people are good with those signs.
We love that. What else at the reunion?
Tim and Alex. The Tim and
Oh.
Alex stuff was wild to me. Just the way they were communicating.
It would have
Tim
done
specifically,
this
sorry.
in person.
I,
Tim
I,
specifically.
I think I'm definitely in the odd man out here, but I'm Team Tim.
I see Team Tim's side.
I see them both.
Yeah,
Me too. Well, yeah.
I think it was disrespectful for Alex to take a nap. I also like don't think it's that big of a deal at the end of the day. Also, I understand her being like, I didn't, I worked, I had to work, I got, I have this condition where I get tired easily. Like all that makes sense. I think as
Yeah,
her
by
partner, he could have like given her a little bit of like,
Well,
understanding.
There was stuff that I feel like we didn't fully address too, because basically she said she was with the family from 11 to 6, then had to bartend from 9 to 3, her first time ever bartending. And then she
the
took
one time
nap
you bartended since
but
the
then-
show was the day you're meeting his family.
the night
Come
of.
on.
But didn't you like catch where he was like kind of implying that she was partying a lot?
He tried to.
He
Yeah.
Like you
tried
saw that,
to,
like he
and she
tried to
was-
twist it, and she was like, "No."
She was like,
literally.
no, let's
But we
correct.
barely-
We were
yeah.
out to dinner the night before.
That's a different.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the truth is somewhere in the middle. And again, I think we all agree that there's clearly not a match.
Oh, not at
Yeah.
all.
He is a very earnest guy who takes himself very seriously. But he is the type of guy who he means what he says, he follows through.
Yeah.
And if he promises something, he's going to do it. And she's more kind of like, everything's kind of a suggestion for Alex, And I just think their personalities are just the polar opposites. See, it's weird, especially with Love is Blind. These are a group of people who go through this very intense experience,
Mhm.
right? They film it at least, 9 months to a year and a half in advance from when it airs, right?
Mhm.
And then they, for the most part, live in the similar city. So, like, while they get done filming, between the time it's done filming and the time it airs, these group of people like kind of only have each other, and they're clearly bonding for a lot of the times.
Best friends.
Minus maybe the couples who get married to kind of do their own thing and kind of like focus on their relationship. And to see so many of these people show up to the reunion and just go fucking rogue and absolutely throw some of their peers and / friends under the bus for what they perceive as their own benefit is fucking crazy to me. The whole Marissa and Hannah dynamic, it's just like there's just a bunch of fake friend bullshit
Mhm.
that at the end of the day, when it comes down to like what matters, like at the end of the day, like love Marissa, but the only person that matters to Marissa is Marissa. Well, Marissa just wants to look good, and Marissa just wants people to side with her.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's hard to argue against that because of all the backtracking and the flip flopping, and they're not standing on anything. You
Mhm.
know,
Just to close off the Tim and Alex part of it, like I feel like by the end of that conversation, just the room realized like we're not getting anywhere with this, because the whole time he was like, "Well, you called me a little bitch," and she's
You
like, "Well,
said-
you are a
you
little
said.
bitch," and he's like, "Well, why'd you call me a little bitch?" And it's like,
yeah,
okay,
it felt like, I mean, and honestly, Taylor and Garrett gave us an insight onto
Yeah.
how long that conversation actually went. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, they're just not meant to be together. I
No.
think once you like put your hands on someone and like call them out of their name and like he gets loud, and I understand why she was doing it. If she's like, you're like getting loud and yelling and production is right outside and like they're gonna want to come in and film this and like this is not something we need to have filmed. So her being like, shh, okay, shh,
There's a lot
let's
of
stop.
controlling the edit too.
Yeah.
You know what I don't need at the Love Is Blind reunions? I don't need to catch up with everyone.
I was just gonna say that. Like, why did we spend 45 minutes? I had to I'm like, who's Katie and why am I meeting her baby? Like 45 minutes, but I couldn't get a follow-up question.
Also, AD, if you don't want to talk about your current relationship, just say
No, I love her. I loved seeing her on my screen.
that was like it was a
we
30
love
second.
AD, but it was like she could have given us what Brittany did, which is like, yeah, I'm seeing someone, and like I'm not. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah,
But
she
couldn't she
gave
be-
a whole 30-second performance. It's like
Maybe I'm wrong, but isn't it like leaked that she's part of Perfect Match?
sure.
So she could just be teasing Perfect Match.
I know, but like
I'm just saying we
I
didn't
just wasn't-
need segments.
We
Stopping.
don't. Yeah, we don't need. I like love Bliss, love Zach. Like we follow them on Instagram. Like
But
we
also-
see their lives. We don't. Like I don't need the catch up. I don't need the the.
AD's reactions though
Or-
were everything.
No, they ate, and like
Yeah.
I love the reactions. I don't need
Everybody
the tell me
else.
about your life since the
Okay.
show.
But they should be
Valid,
making
yeah.
that its own special. Where are they now? What are we up to?
Oh, sure. There you go.
It's so easy. You
And I
could-
won't watch it.
yeah, exactly. Or you could do a spin-off of these characters that you love so much that you need
Or
to bring back to reunions.
do it at the end or something. I
Yeah.
guess it's the most frustrating. We get like no. It's like hey Ramses, any thoughts? He's like clearly I don't think that. Anyways, we're moving on. Let's spend 20 minutes on AD and Nick and Zach and Bliss or I don't know.
Yeah, for me it was like the lack of follow-up questions too, where
Mhm.
I'm like, it just reminded me of the end of the Love Island reunion when it was like, Rob, we're gonna ask you the question that everybody wants to know. Are you still wearing overalls? And it
yeah.
was like there's
No
so
one
many
wants
other
to
more important
know.
questions to
No,
ask.
Vanessa clearly doesn't watch the show.
Yeah.
You think so?
I think she skims. I think
she
she's doing something
skims.
else.
She she might prep for the big day of the interview and watch some clips and skims, and she gets like the cliff notes from her team, but she is not a fan and she doesn't watch.
But she spends time on those jokes.
I do also think what's important.
What's wrong with that?
I do think what's important for hosts
The
is
jokes.
to like.
Well, I
Sorry.
mean, but a host has to be more than just jokes. To Natalie's point.
Yeah, I think they like need to be paying attention to like the TikToks and what the audience is saying and what like is going on in the outside world while the show's airing. Like that's the stuff they need to be paying attention to because that's the stuff we as viewers want to know.
Look like you have an honest opinion or a take on what we watched that you sincerely believe in and that you want to have a point of view on.
Mhm.
That's what I want to hear.
I also like didn't need to see the photos of Brittany and Leo in Miami. It's like a selfie and then a photo of the watch. It's like that felt like it was 10 minutes long. And it's for what? Like, okay,
I did like
cool,
their
guess.
conversation though.
No.
Like Leo and Brittany.
Love Leo and Brittany,
Yeah.
big fans. But they're like, and we have footage from Miami. And it's like, no, you don't. Like I was
That's true. When you're right, because they're like, let's show them
Footage.
footage picture.
Yeah, there's no follow-up
That's a
questions
selfie.
from them. There's
That's-
no like, well, what do you mean by that? Like Andy Cohen's great at that. He's great
Yeah.
at being like, wait, hold on. Like you just said something that doesn't make sense. Let's
He
go
calls
back.
them
to
out,
that.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it almost felt like everybody came prepared to say what they wanted to say. They said their thing, and then there were no follow-up questions that actually got them to like pause and get stuck and come up with something else and take
let's wrap
accountability
it
for
up.
anything.
Well,
It
let's
all
just wrap it
became-
up. How many times did Nick
Yeah.
say that?
Vanessa loved that joke.
Oh my God. It was.
They spent more time on jokes
Oh, the
and
wrap it up.
transitions than they did on follow-up questions or what we actually want to know about.
Wait.
At some point, they do need to get new hosts.
Oh yeah.
I mean, how many seasons of Love is Blind are we on now? This is 7?
They just celebrated their 5-year anniversary during the reunion.
Yeah. Well, Minneapolis will be
The 5-year.
Yeah.
Sorry, my bad. They're
It's
about
like,
2.
come on.
I mean, Leo comparing choosing between Brittany and Hannah to pasta and steak.
yeah, that was brutal.
I
Michael-
thought
I
it
was
was
like, but like
hilarious.
people are
No, but
eating it
it's
up.
like,
People
who-
are eating it up.
And who's the steak?
And who's the pasta?
That's what I want to know. What am I?
Do you guys feel like you're more pasta or steak?
I'm definitely more pasta.
I mean, I don't eat
definitely
beef, so
steak.
I'm a pasta.
Pasta,
Steak.
steak.
I'll be impossible meat.
steak.
I'll take that.
Ew.
I love
Impossible
impossible
Chemical
meat.
meat.
No,
I'm
no,
a
hear me out.
carnivore.
If you eat it 2 times, you won't know the difference. The first
No,
time's always shocking.
I don't doubt. Well, first of all, I will always notice the difference, but there's no way that shit's healthier for you.
Oh, for sure it is.
It's not chemically made. It may not be like,
Don't know
hey,
science,
I'm not
but
eating red meat, for whatever the negative.
It is questionable that it's plant that bleeds like meat.
My whole
But I
thi-
do love
There's
it.
a
I
lot
eat
of
that up.
sodium in that.
It tastes good
How's
though.
your cholesterol?
Not bad.
Period.
Yeah, I don't know if it's cholesterol is the marker.
I feel like Leo is the only one who has taken accountability for his actions and who's come back on social media and has redeemed himself.
People love him on social media.
Yeah.
People are saying, little did we know we would hate him in the show, but love him the most.
Because he's
So-
like he's kind of presents a bit of a dork kind of guy, and he doesn't have a filter. He says kind of these outlandish things, which from reality TV, you can easily edit something when people don't have a filter. It's easy to make them look foolish or stupid or
Mhm,
kind of
mhm.
out of touch. But, you know, the more you get to see of Leo, it's just like a guy who is actually more self-aware than you realize, doesn't take himself that seriously, and more than anything, can like admit when he's wrong.
Yeah.
And that's all we really want to hear from these people when they fuck up. It's just like, you know what?
I was
That
wrong.
was fucked up of me, and I'm really ashamed. And we don't want to hear excuses, even if excuses are valid. We know, Ramses, that this show is edited. We get it. Like, how did you get to a point where the show could actually even take you out of context, is my question.
Yeah.
We'll ask him
We'll ask
shortly.
him.
That's what you want to see. You want to see people take accountability, and what Leo's doing, make fun of themselves, where it's like, oh, that's not who I am, or that's not my personality, but my God, that guy did talk about money a lot, didn't he? Like, you know, make fun of yourself, but also be like, yeah, I looked like a douche.
Or like, it's like, that wasn't my intention, but I realize how I sound when I talk.
Which is
Yeah.
what he said.
You know?
Yeah.
And I'll take note of that.
Yeah.
You know what Leo does do?
What?
Is share drinks
He does share a drink.
and anything and everything.
That's fine.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Well, that's what Brittany was saying. Like, that was the first thing. She was like, I can't do this. Because any drink she had, he needed, even if it was the same drink, he would drink her drink.
They could never do a Nick and Natalie sharing a cup of water to
Oh.
go
Yeah,
to
'cause
bed.
you guys do that.
I'll
We're-
never forget that moment. I go, y'all do
right.
what?
We share a cup.
We
I do the
share
same
a cup.
thing.
Yeah.
So do you have to wake up in the middle of the night and be
Whose
like, hey,
nightstand is it on?
Yes.
hand me the cup?
Yes.
Yeah.
Damn, that's
Yes.
love. Connor
It's
and I'd be like, get your own.
Can I have a drink?
Do you also
Pass
share a
the water.
toothbrush?
Just the water.
We don't. No, Nick will take my toothbrush if we're traveling and he didn't bring one.
Is it
Yeah.
a fresh toothbrush?
Oh, really?
I have like a travel toothbrush
That
that
you
I
use-
take when
Am I
I travel.
You
supposed
take
to
it every
what?
time or a new one?
No, I take it
And
every time.
explain to me how
So
that's
you
any
do
different
share a
than
toothbrush.
making
You do, yeah.
out.
No. We don't share. He takes mine.
But you share the same travel one every single time.
No, now he's
no,
disgusted by the fact that I
You get a
forget
new one
my
every
toothbrush
time.
from time to time.
No. I
Replaceable heads?
have a travel toothbrush and I have a toothbrush at home.
Right.
Nally never forgets her toothbrush. I forget half the time
And he'll use mine because he has forgotten his.
Mhm.
because it's like where's
I'm
my
not
wife?
like, babe, I'll just bring one. That's not the conversation. It's I'm packing mine and I'm thinking he's packing his.
When you're
And then
traveling.
we get
got
there and then he's like, I didn't bring my toothbrush. Can I use yours?
You
Oh,
share a toothbrush when you travel.
We don't share.
Here's a hack.
He takes it. I want to make it very clear. We don't share. He
Here's a
takes
hack
it.
though. When you're traveling, every hotel has toothbrushes. Just go to
That's-
the lobby and ask the person at the front.
Remember that, Nick.
All right, well, let's see if Ramses is willing to share toothbrushes with his next girlfriend.
Article is an online furniture company that sells modern furniture and decor directly to consumers. Being online only, Article cuts out the middleman and passes the savings on to you. Our entire backyard is brought to you by Article, and some of my favorite pieces are Article. I've put a lot of my friends onto these really like bougie looking bean bag layout chairs. They're so incredible. They're so nice. They're such great quality. Article has expanded their best-selling living room collection with hundreds of new sofa beds, sectionals, modular sofas, lounge chairs, swivel chairs, ottomans, and more. Plus, they have launched 9 new fabric options, allowing you to pick the perfect sofa to create your dream living space.
Article believes in delightful designs for every home, and thanks to their online-only model, they have some really delightful prices, too. Their curated assortment of mid-century modern, coastal, industrial, Scandi, and boho designs makes furniture shopping simple. They have some great pieces for every room you could possibly think of, like Natalie mentioned. It is wonderful, great prices, easy to shop, super convenient. You love everything about it. They make it super easy, and the best part, what I love about Article, is they have inventory, which isn't always the case with some other furniture brands out there. Article's knowledgeable customer care team is there when you need to make sure your experience is smooth and stress-free. So if by some miracle you're not obsessed with your new Article piece of furniture, they make the whole exchange or return process incredibly easy. Article is offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. To claim, visit article.com/VIALL, and the discount will be automatically applied at checkout. That's article.com/VIALL for $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more. Grammar, it's super important. You know, because people, whether it's true or not, will judge you for your grammar. If you don't know where your commas should go or how to spell, people will think you stupid. People will think you're dumb.
People will think you stupid.
People will think you're a little bit of a dum-dum. And that might not be accurate or fair, but sometimes that's just how life works.
But now you can write with confidence
Yes.
with Grammarly. Your time and expertise are valuable. And with professionals spending nearly half the work week on written communication, focus is one of the most important things to have at work. With Grammarly as your AI writing partner, you can stay focused and get through your work faster with relevant real-time suggestions wherever you write.
That's right. Let your team focus their energy on the things that you're paying them for, not to proofread an endless amount of emails and messages. Let the good people at Grammarly help your team work smarter and faster. Grammarly works across more than 500,000 apps and websites. 93% of professionals report that Grammarly helps them get more work done. So what are you waiting for? Let your team get more work done with Grammarly. Get more done with Grammarly. Download Grammarly for free at grammarly.com/podcast. That's grammarly.com/podcast. Ramses!
Going, y'all.
How's it going?
How's it going?
Good. Ramses.
Have you listened to the show?
I
don't know. We want to applaud you.
Listen. I was just gonna say I've heard everything.
Okay.
I don't take it personally. I recognize there's a lot to talk about, so I'm happy to answer questions. For sure.
I said to Nally this morning, I go, we have Ramses on today. She goes, what?
I want to applaud you because honestly, I feel like so many people who go through similar experiences on other reality TV shows or Love is Blind will take these comments so personally and be like, Nick hates us or this show, like, fuck this show. I'm never talking to the show. So I do really want to like applaud you, and we appreciate you coming on to share the context and share your side of things. 100%. We appreciate that.
We definitely don't say things to get people to come on to defend themselves, but because we obviously were just watching a show that we recognize can be edited, and we don't meet these people. But you're right. Like, honestly, you showing up, man. We, if nothing else, we give you a lot of credit because we were definitely. I don't think we've been harder on anyone else on the show.
No, I get it. I understand that you can only really comment on what you're seeing, and that's understandable, but I'm happy to, provide context and sort of some explanations. I know what is perceived seems really wild, and I promise, like, I'm not that person that people are trying to make me out to be, but happy to talk about it.
Okay, so let's get into that. So we recognize the show can be edited, it is edited and things like that. And you kind of alluded to that at the reunion. That being said, as someone who knows what it's like to be on reality TV, I guess it's just hard for me to understand how we can just blame editing across the board with like just how much was said about the two, like whether it's the contraception or the period sex and things like that. So with that being said, can you just like fill in the gaps? Because even the reunion, you were like, hey, it's out of context. And then Nick and Vanessa told a couple puns and some Taylor Swift jokes. And they were like, wait, we want more Ramses. Anyways, can you just like put it to bed, so to speak? What do you mean by out of context, and what was the actual conversation like?
Yeah. So we'll start with the contraception conversation. That was the first thing that sort of came up. I think that conversation, obviously it was a longer conversation. It was 30, 45 minutes long. I don't know how long. And you kind of just see two minutes or so of it. And really the whole point of that conversation was to talk about what our long-term method of contraception was going to be. I know the perception from it is like, this guy's anti-condom. This guy is sort of like, is just concerned about his own personal pleasure in this situation. Trust me, I'm well aware of, what hormonal contraception can do to a woman's body. I'm aware of all of these things. And so, me and Marissa are very candid when it comes to these sort of conversations. We're willing to say like, what it is, whether it was the comment about, sex with a condom being not as, enjoyable as without one, obviously. So you catch these very candid moments. But there were also moments where I was trying to explain that, I recognize that we live in a society where women, the pressure is primarily placed on women to deal with the question of contraception, and that men typically don't have that responsibility placed on them. You only heard the second half of that, but I promise the point I was trying to make at that moment is just an acknowledgement of the fact that that is a reality that we're faced with. And so we talked about other methods of contraception. We talked about a vasectomy and what it would look like for me to get a vasectomy, and I would look into that. And ultimately, we talked about also, using the rhythm method, where Marissa would track her cycle, and we would, I would use a condom when I need to, and vice, whatever the case may be. And so this was a very nuanced conversation that we had that was really brought down into just kind of a couple minutes. And I was really just trying to be very considerate in that moment. I promise that's not the way it looks, but I was really trying to understand what would work best for us in a marriage. I promise I'm not anti-condom or whatever the conversation is on the internet.
Do you guys ever just discuss the old-fashioned pull-out? I mean, I know I'm not necessarily recommending it as a one that always works, and there's clearly
Sure.
risks involved. But I think if we're being honest, many of us in committed relationships, especially ones where the woman in the relationship doesn't want to take birth control, there's a little bit of like, we'll do our best, and then we'll accept the consequences, whatever those consequences may be. Like, did you guys just practically just say, hey, well, let's do, if this works out and we get married, like, or were you just that anti-kid at that time?
So my thing with so when we decided, what our sort of solution was going to be, it was pretty much, mixture of pull-out game and her cycle and sort of moving forward. She would, also agreed with me at the point that, using a condom every single time in a marriage was probably not the most feasible thing or the thing that we both wanted in that situation. But even with the kids, that's a conversation we had in the pods about what our timeline would look like. And so even in that conversation, like the timeline had changed with her. And so that kind of caught me off guard. But I at no point, I recognize the risk that we're taking, especially, playing the pullout game. I recognize the risk that we're playing there. And if we were to have kids, that's a responsibility I would take upon myself. And, we would handle that situation. That's a risk that you're playing. And I would have been more than happy to take that responsibility if we had kids. So,
okay.
I appreciate all of this context. And we had Marissa on and she did bring up the vasectomy conversation and how that was included, but cut out of the edit. I do think, unfortunately, the edit was against you because it was very much Marissa being like, some of the best sex I've ever had is with a condom. And you being like, well, I need to enjoy sex and I don't enjoy sex with a condom. So I do think the edit was a little bit against you in that conversation.
You're not alone there, Ramses. I don't think anyone's a fan of it.
Well, clearly, Marissa.
I think I felt like I just said the quiet part out loud, but it just the way it was perceived, it didn't look great on me. And I honestly, watching it back, my jaw was on the floor because I recognized what the conversation was, and I knew it immediately, like what the perception was going to be in that moment. So it was a rough watching those conversations back for sure.
Okay, but you understand everyone's opinion because you clearly had the same watching it back. Just being like, oh my God,
no,
what the fuck?
for sure.
This is crazy.
Listen, if I was an outside viewer watching this conversation back, I'd be like, yeah, this guy's a douchebag, like immediately. So trust me, I understand the perception.
Can you add the context that was missing during the period sex conversation?
Absolutely. So this conversation was something that had been building up over the past days, weeks. I understand the perception of this is, Marissa she's dealing with all of these health issues, right? And I am simply there, only concerned about my pleasure, just trying to demand sex and just concerned about, when is the next time, or why are we not having enough sex, basically. The way I approached this conversation wasn't about sex. It was about our physical intimacy and the way it played out, not just, in the bedroom, but it just in our day to day. There were moments where we would go out on dates. And, I'm a very affectionate person. I like to, like hug and, hold hands and all of that. And there was like a moment, for example, where I kind of put my hand on her leg just to kind of, as we were riding in the Uber to a date. And she was like, please stop. And obviously I can respect that. I know she has like ADHD and a lot of sensory stuff can be a lot for her. But there are also moments in, just cuddling where she kind of brushes my arm off. And so I'm starting to notice like all of these, we're not communicating in terms of like our physical affection and intimacy. And it also played out in the bedroom. Like I won't go too much into detail, but it pretty much, it felt very detached. It felt when we had sex that, once we finished, she'd get up, go to the bathroom, clean off, and, just kind of lay on the other side of the bed. And so I'm picking up on these things. And my concern was really our physical intimacy. It doesn't seem to be really connecting. Like it feels like there's some sort of detachment there that I was concerned about because of the way that I communicate my love. And so if there wasn't a compatibility there, then that's something that I felt that we needed to talk about and we needed to sort of figure out, because it's something that I wanted to figure out before we got married. It's not something that I wanted to like leave until we get married. It becomes an issue potentially. And then, you have to deal with the heartbreak of a divorce. And so that was the way I approached it. I recognize that Marissa in her past has dealt with men who have not given her the respect when it comes to a lot of these issues she's dealing with when it comes to her health. And so she's had these really wild expectations placed on her and how she should communicate and express herself. And so I can understand why she came into that conversation probably thinking like, oh, here we go again. Like, here's the same shit I've dealt with in the past. And this is the same type of guy that I'm dealing with now. But I think even after that conversation, we spoke more about it, and we brought some clarity into what exactly it was that I was trying to focus on in that moment.
So it's interesting hearing that, Ramses, and I appreciate that context. But it almost sounds like Marissa got triggered by this conversation, maybe from her past, and then threw out, hey, but I'm on my period. Why can't you be empathetic to what I'm feeling? Like, do you feel like it, like in that moment when she said that, did you kind of give like oh fuck, how is this gonna be looked at in a way? Am I making sense? It's like a trump card conversation where it's like you're trying to connect with her and she's like, what, I'm on my period, which obviously, as we're all watching, we're like, fuck this guy, like
I get it. No, of course. Like I've always, and I know it again, like it doesn't come off that way, but when I approach conversations, I try to be very understanding and considerate of, especially, when it comes to a partner, of where they are in that moment, where there's, whatever issues they may be dealing with. I would never try to, either force myself or try to put her into a position where she has to, she's dealing with all of these issues, but she has to for some reason or another prioritize, my sexual pleasure or prioritize how I'm feeling in the moment. And so I understand why, she was pissed off and, she's dealing with all of these things. And so I understand why she in that moment maybe didn't want to have that conversation. Unfortunately, like in this experience, we don't have the luxury of time. And so there are times where we're going to have conversations that we maybe don't want to have in the moment, or we may be pushed into a situation where we have to speak on something because every day is different. Every day, you're presented with new issues in this experience, and you just don't have a lot of time. And so I recognize that, and I see it, you can see it on her face. I recognize that she's uncomfortable. And so it was a difficult conversation. I wanted to recognize where she was at, but also communicate what I was feeling in the moment. Because we were less than a week out at that point, I believe, before the marriage.
The timeline makes a lot of sense in terms of when anything happens in these moments, like you're describing. I think in real life, we have the benefit of saying to ourselves, maybe now is not the time. I'll table that for a second, and then maybe a couple weeks later you bring something up. Hey, this happened in the past and I want to talk about it when you're not feeling triggered. But yeah, you don't have that benefit of being like, well, I guess I just need to address it now. Here we go.
Do you think that conversation is kind of what like ultimately shifted you to end the engagement?
Not for me, no. I like, so for some reason or another, our depiction of our sort of our relationship is very focused on our physical connection, and it seems as if our sexual connection, our physical connection, is something that's like hyper important for me. It's important, but it's not. It wasn't everything, and ultimately, it wasn't something that shifted sort of my decision in the end. I talked a lot about like our differences in our energies, and I know that word is like sometimes it's just vague. It's like what do you mean by energy? And so, but I think we saw some of it like at the reunion, but also just the way we perceive things, the way we react to things, the way we approach things is just my sort of temperament. I'm just very like level, very just kind of, you're not going to see me like way too high or way too low. And so there was just a big difference in compatibility with us when it came to that. And it sort of sprouts out into other aspects of our relationship and our dynamic. And so in the end, I didn't feel like there was that compatibility there, because it's something that would have affected our day-to-day life if we decided to get married.
Marissa, throughout the reunion that you guys started hooking up again, in what context did that start up again? Were you guys, now that you're out of the Love is Blind bubble, thinking, all right, like maybe we're not going to get married, but like, is there something there? Do we give it a shot? Or did you guys just agree to be like, hey, we might not be a match, but we love fucking, like, and then you just became hookup buddies? Like, what was the context? And yeah, can you offer a little glimpse into that relationship?
Yeah. So yeah, no, there wasn't any sort of like relationship or anything. It was, so it's here's the thing. in this experience, you go 0 to 100 very quickly. And you fall in love very quickly. You have these really genuine, intense feelings for each other very quickly. And once something like this ends, those feelings don't go away. Those desires, all of those things do not go away. And in the months that followed after the breakup, I made myself available to Marissa in any capacity that she needed in terms of our like conversation, in terms of helping Marissa just find the closure that she needed. This was a very heartbreaking, obviously everyone saw it, heartbreaking sort of situation. She had a lot of questions that I wanted to provide clarity for. And so, yeah, we talked a lot, and there were occasions where she happened to be in DC, and things went where they went. She would reach out, and but I also recognized very quickly too that was not healthy. That was pretty toxic thing to do in light of just everything that's been going on, the breakup. She deserves to move on. I deserve to move on in a healthy manner, and having sex after such an intense sort of experience was not the best decision.
Yeah,
it's
definitely toxic, and you're two adults who made an adult decision, so you both play a role. But I'm sure you also recognize, looking back, that maybe in that moment, especially as you kind of described, you were kind of the person who was a little bit more emotionally regulated and had moved on, where you were, like you said, were trying to offer Marissa closure, and that even if Marissa wanted to have sex in that moment, maybe the nicest thing for you to do in that moment would have been to reject the sex, because that obviously can be very confusing and emotionally, kind of gets people in a rabbit hole. And maybe that wasn't the nicest thing for you to do in that moment.
Hey, listen, I agree 100%. In the moment, you're caught up in the emotions of everything, and it's just kind of like you make dumb decisions.
Yeah, I've been there, so like I've made your mistake multiple times.
I recognize. I agree with you. I recognize that she was in this really vulnerable moment. But we're both vulnerable, but in terms of moving on, that wasn't the best decision to make. And it in a sense, it's sort of like kind of gives her false hope. And I trust me, I get it, I understand it, and it was the wrong decision in that moment for sure.
Have you spoken to Marissa since the reunion regarding her behavior? Because she definitely gave you a little window of redemption, because the reunion in her interview, that like morning DC show, when she completely walked back her friendship with Hannah, was not the Marissa I fell in love with on Love is Blind. And I was like, girl, what the fuck? What are you doing? Because when we had her on the show, she had the opportunity to let you off the hook, and she did not. Sure. I felt like she kind of put your feet to the fire. And her behavior at the reunion and in this interview that we saw kind of suggests to me that, Marissa would be willing to do what she needed to do to look better post show. Can you either defend or I'm just curious your take on her behavior post. Yeah. I was a little shocked. I was a little disappointed, to be honest.
Yeah. So the depictions you see of everyone, obviously on something experience like this, everyone is sort of flattened. It's very reductive. You're turned into like a one-dimensional sort of character. So I see why people would have fallen in love with Marissa. I told her, like, people are going to love your personality. She's not a terrible person, but that you're starting to see just a broader picture of who Marissa is. You're getting more context around who she is. Interestingly enough, we had conversations leading up to the reunion. There was like a few weeks there where we were speaking almost every day, where she was saying, like, don't worry, I'm going to defend you. I'm going to be, I'm telling her, like, don't worry, we'll take care of each other. I don't have any animosity towards you. She's saying she doesn't have any animosity towards me. And then the reunion happened, and it seemed like things just kind of split. And so at the end of the day, I'm not concerned in getting involved in just all this social media, just all the craziness and all of that. Like, I'm a very low key dude. I'm not concerned with getting involved in all of that, I guess all the drama surrounding all of this. But I think Marissa, I definitely do think she switched up. I do think that she sort of led me to believe that she was kind of like on my side. And now I've been reading all the interviews. I've seen, I saw her on speaking to you, and it surprised me. But at the end of the day, she's going to say what it is that she wants to say. And, I can't control that. I can only speak, from my perspective and provide, my story from my side. So,
Do you have any relationship with Marissa whatsoever right now? Or are you guys just kind of like, have you moved on, or where would you describe yourself as
uh,
friends? Where are we at?
yeah, at this point, yeah, there's no relationship at all. She texted me once, maybe after the reunion, a couple times, but it's gone. It went from just we were pretty friendly to now it's just there's nothing there, and that's fine. I really do want her to be able to move on. This is what's a lot for both of us, and I just wish her the best. But yeah, there's nothing there between us at the moment.
It appeared that she debuted her new relationship on Halloween. Did you know about this guy, or did that take you by surprise?
No, yeah, I was aware that she was dating someone. She's been dating him for the last few months or since earlier in the year, and I was aware of that. So, yeah, I'm happy for her. And if it's someone that can, embrace her for who she is and she's happy, that's great. But yeah, it didn't catch me off guard.
Your
He seemed
reunion.
happy, actually.
He does. No, yeah. He's happy for it. Your reunion outfit. I feel like you were kind of the cut and the eyebrows, the haircut.
He just didn't know better. I think that's just.
I liked it.
No. He was like serving fashion for sure. It was just a little on like the I'm giving like bad boy villain
Reputation.
side.
You looked like you were leaning into your character, so to speak. Yeah.
I've heard that, and honestly, like I didn't really go in with that intention. Like I just kind of pieced together the look. I just like, oh, I like this. Let me piece it with these pants. I like these, the loafers, whatever. But yeah, once I did put it on, I was like, damn, this is giving like a little like villainy maybe, or like a little, I don't know. And then once I started seeing the remarks online, I was like, okay, I can see why people would think that. But no, I didn't go in trying to embrace the villain sort of arch or whatever. It just happened to look that way, I guess.
Okay. Did you feel pressured? And I would imagine why you would, if your answer is yes, to hold Nick accountable in that kind of team up against him.
Yeah, like stepping back from it, how do you feel about it all now?
I honestly, this is an issue between Nick and Hannah, and in the moment, I did feel sort of pressure just because I felt like I was catching jabs left and right, and just like I'm being pressured to like respond to this because I was present in the moment, and so. But honestly, that's something between Nick and Hannah. They're both grown ass adults. They need to figure themselves out and whatever they have issues they have going on. In terms of what was said and wasn't said, that's between them. I don't have any sort of animosity against Nick or anything, but I don't know. At a general principle level, I always have been someone that likes to just hold myself accountable for just whatever shit that I may say or do that misses the mark, or if I'm ever out of line. Like I have no problem taking responsibility for that, and so. That's where that comment came from. At the end of the day, part of it was just kind of the pressure of the moment. But
that's fair.
I'll leave it at that.
I get what you're saying on the accountability part. It's just more felt like this was clearly a conversation that Nick had what we thought was with friends off camera or off mic.
Yeah.
And I get that maybe he technically said something, but like we all know in the context at which it was being delivered, that if Nick were to admit to calling Hannah a grenade or something like that, he potentially could have been eviscerated. And it just really felt like that's what Hannah and Marissa were trying to do, which felt really dirty given like their motives. And it to me, and I think for the audience, it was less about whether Nick actually said that and in the manner of like, what was the intent behind here? Because it's like we all have the right to feel how we feel about our physical attraction to someone. We have a right not to be physically attracted. The whole point of the show is to look past your physical attraction. And Nick decided to do the thing that, what we all thought was the noble thing, is to like just be nice, regardless of how he actually felt, certainly publicly. And if he wanted to have a conversation with friends offline, like we all are entitled to do that. And then for that to be, it seemed like Steven was the snitch. Which was not shocking. It's like, well, I'm catching heat. Let's just throw someone under the bus. I don't know. It all came together in a very what felt dirty way. And I get what you were saying. I get where you're coming from in that moment. It's just like, it would have, I didn't agree with your take, but I kind of understand why you did what you did in the moment.
Yeah. No, for sure. Yeah. I can see, obviously looking back, how that moment, it was, they were pretty much dogpiling on Nick, and And everyone was sort of taking jabs at him in the moment. And so yeah, I can see, when it comes to like whatever bro code, whatever people want to sort of bring up, and so I get that perspective for sure. And I understand why he would be upset with me. But yeah, there's just so much that we see, there's so much that we experience behind the scenes that the audience will never be privy to. And I think sort of a lot of my reasoning came from that. But yeah, I can see how that can be perceived that way for sure.
Did you have any nerves going into reunion knowing Marissa's mother would be there?
Honestly, no. This thing with Marissa's mother and just like the way she's, I guess, sort of has spoke to me throughout this entire experience, is something I was already aware of just early on. Marissa sort of gave me a lot of insight on just how her mother communicates and how she expresses herself. And so, yeah, there weren't any nerves around that. In terms of me I think at the end of the day, I'm not going to respond to the insults. I'm not going to respond to the threats of violence, all of that stuff. I think personally that there is a way that you can communicate very directly and pointedly what it is that you want to say without doing that. But at the end of the day, she's going to say what she wants to say, and I'm not going to react to that. But I'll answer, whatever questions that she had for me at that moment in the reunion.
I absolutely liked you the most when you were around Marissa's mom, because even whether it's like you being here, I think, like I said, like you're a person who you think and feel how you want. We all make mistakes, but you are at least able to face your criticism head on, and that does to me show something about your character. The last question I have, I think, is regarding like some of the criticism you've received around your comments around Marissa's service. Which, for me, like, I think our government has a lot to be criticized for, which I think Marissa pointed out. It just came from a place where it didn't feel like you had the right to judge Marissa in that moment, given, what she did for this country. Do you want to shed any light or context around those comments?
Yeah. So when it comes to politics and stuff like that, I just like the friend groups that I'm around, these are conversations we have like all the time, and just like very, critical, not just of what happens here in the US, just globally. And in that moment, coming into that conversation, I was honestly just trying to have a better understanding of sort of where Marissa stood when it came to like the military and her service. We had talked a lot about it in the pods. And, I felt in the pods was just as critical of just what she experienced. And so this is her lived experience. And you can hear me say in the conversations, like, I don't want you to feel shame for your service and, the time that you spent in the military. Obviously, this is something that has shaped your life, has shaped the person that you are. And so at the end of the day, we didn't land in the same camps in terms of, our opinions about the military. But in that moment, even when she felt when she said, I feel like I'm being judged, I immediately stopped the conversation. And like, I held her hands and I told her, like, look, I don't want you to feel like I'm shaming you, trying to make you feel guilty for this. I understand that my opinions are a lot more pointed than maybe most Americans. I know when it comes to the military, it's something that you just don't critique. It's sort of like the golden calf. You don't speak ill of it. You just sort of, thank veterans and folks who've been in the military for their service, and you sort of leave it at that. And so I understand why she felt, like she was being judged in that moment. And that wasn't my intent going into it. But at the end of the day, I understand that, what matters is impact versus intent. And so, yeah, it's a complicated conversation. We were speaking there for probably over an hour. And, there's a lot of layers to it, a lot of nuance when you talk about the politics, especially something like the military. So, yeah, I mean, I just want to clarify that we were both very critical, although it may have come across as he was just very pro-military and I'm just like, fuck the military, which is, that's it. I think they made it look like very sort of like if we were on opposite ends of the spectrum.
Okay. All right.
Well, all of your castmates said the second we met you, we would like you and to give you a second chance. So we do, and we appreciate all the context you've given.
We really appreciate it, Ramses. I think, if you're willing to face your critics right or wrong and answer some questions, and especially, it's one of these things that, I don't know why people go on these shows, all different reasons, but I think we also have to accept the benefits and the consequences. And part of it is we will have people talk about us. Sometimes it feels unfairly, but I really, really appreciate you coming on and answering all our questions in the manner in which you did. And it's been great getting to know you, the actual Ramses, in person. So I really thank you for the opportunity.
No, I appreciate the opportunity so much, and just giving me an opportunity to speak on these topics that I know had people sort of just kind of jaw on the floor. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
Take care, buddy.
Care.
I got, there's the answers that we could have gotten at the reunion, but we didn't.
I mean, yeah.
Which actually I think we should just be, unless they're going to hire us, babe, we actually should be rooting.
No, you're right.
For Nick and Vanessa to keep their jobs.
At least put you in the audience.
No.
We don't need a season 1, season 2.
I don't need someone who's better at their job. So then, and again, unless they're going to hire us.
I would just be the whole time. Like, I actually have a question. I have a question. Can I ask a question? The whole time if I were in the audience. So.
Yeah. And how did we like his answers? Not like his answers?
Yeah. Well, I think for the reunion, he added perspective to it where he said things like, I would be exhausted and overwhelmed. And it's like, he gave context into that. That's more
the
than
period
just
sex offers a lot of context that
Mm-hmm.
especially the part where he recognized that this is clearly something that she was sensitive about in past relationships. It is a sensitive topic.
Yeah.
So I could see a world where he brought this up and then she went to a place of accusing him of doing something that maybe he didn't feel like he was doing, like being insensitive about her being on her period.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously knowing how reality TV works, once the accusation is thrown out there, it's very much easy to cut around that other stuff.
It's a very specific thing to cut out, though.
Yeah.
Like the editors chose an angle.
They definitely did. And I think that's their job.
That's their job.
Make creative television.
Yeah, because they have to deliver these types of conversations.
They want everyone to pick sides, so they have to make it.
I mean, yeah, but sometimes it is a little shocking where it's just like the amount of context that was left out of that conversation that like instantly painted him as a villain. Come to find out that he like volunteered a vasectomy and will look into that. Like it just would have given more layers to a person versus just like you're bad or good.
I am not doubting Ramses and his answers, but I think we also have to recognize that we all give ourselves the benefit of the doubt in terms of how we come across in an argument or a disagreement. And so I don't doubt for a second that after listening to Ramses speak, that like he is aware of how a period affects a woman's body and how she might not want to have sex or
he
just
like
aware. Contraception and things like that. That being said, I could see a world in which, like, while he maybe didn't mean it, that he was maybe projecting a type of energy that Marissa received as judgmental or insensitive. And where no one's necessarily wrong or right, but I just think it's not as black and white in terms of like, oh, well, the editors are evil or things like that. I think they're just kind of, it's like their opinion. We got Ramses's POV, we got Marissa's POV, and then we have the editor's POV type of thing. And I think the truth's always somewhere in the middle. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just think when we're in the heat of the moment, we are very unaware of how we come across. Like, honestly, when Natalie and I go to couples therapy, part of couples therapy is having a therapist, like, looking at our body language when one of us is talking and the other person's listening, and our therapist is making sure that, like, we're receiving it the way they understand that we're giving it, but, like, knowing that it might be a triggering conversation, we shut down, we disconnect, and things like that. So I can see it on all sides.
I wanted to know what the comment was that Nick D made, but he was like, it's between them to say what it was. And I was like,
I believe that he said that. I believe he said the grenade comment. I believe he admitted to his boys that he wasn't physically attracted to her when asked. I think that was he
said that explicitly, or he said something that
I mean, I think
that?
grenade is a very
very specific.
It is a very
word
specific
to use.
I think they were all having a conversation.
Huh? So dated. I was like, what is this, Jersey Shore?
I think they were having a conversation. I think they were like broing it up, and they were asking each other's questions. I think they were being more honest than they otherwise would on camera, which we all do with our friends.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was weaponized against him to, again, Steven brought it up because Steven's catching heat. All these people who were throwing Nick under the bus were catching their own heat. And they all wanted Nick to catch the heat because everyone felt like Nick, because you can clear, like even Ramses kind of alluded to it. Like, I think everyone's kind of pissed off that Nick was looking like this golden child when clearly Nick has his own flaws, like as they all do. Maybe he's a little douchebaggy. Maybe he's like incompetent as a 28-year-old. But that really isn't our point as fans. Our point as fans is like, I don't know, we see his flaws. You don't need to point it out. But like, he's not an evil, vindictive guy, and he doesn't deserve to be treated the way Hannah's treating him. And then the fact that after Hannah apologized and then Nick was like, try to defend her, she did all the things that she was accused of doing that she apologized for. And then all these other people are throwing him under the bus because they don't like catching the heat. They think it's unfair. They're just like, well, I might have a kink, but Nick is blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying? That they want to play the fairness cops. Like, Cass is just like deciding who's got it worse than others, and we're going to even the playing field. And that's the part that feels dirty. It's not, I don't think any of the fans are watching it thinking, like, are putting Nick D up on this mantle of like, here's this perfect man. No one's thinking Nick is perfect. No one.
No.
We just don't think Nick deserves to be the scapegoat for all these other people's mistakes.
And that's why people love him now. It says he's like the martyr.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because everyone tried to scapegoat this guy who, you know, he may have his flaws, but he's not problematic.
Actually true. Because that's the thing too, is that it's like the whole thing is we had sympathy for Nick, not because he had an outstanding personality. It's because we sat here and watched him get berated the entire show, that you're just like, okay, at some point, nobody deserves to be spoken to like this at some point.
I think it's also like there was so much time in which Hannah could have had this conversation with Nick, but she waited until reunion for national television to like deliver this, like, you were liking comments and you called me this and you called me that. And it's like, you wanted all the hate that you have been receiving for being direct and for being whatever and whatever to go to him and for him to start getting hate. Like, that was what she wanted. And that intent is gross.
And say what you want about Nick. As flawed as he may be, every step of the way, he always took the high road. And I think what everyone is criticizing everyone else for is like when they felt like it could benefit them, they didn't. Everyone else took the low road. Everyone else did a dig. And Nick always took the high road. And that says something about Nick and his character, you know? All right, Salt Lake City. Helix Sleep. Guys, what more could we say about the greatest mattress ever invented by mankind?
We don't ever shut up about it. And honestly, I don't want to shut up about it because everyone needs to know how amazing and incredible and comfortable Helix Sleep mattresses are. They have a lineup of 20 unique mattresses. We personally use the Moonlight mattress. All you have to do is go online, take a quick quiz, and you're paired with the right mattress for you.
Sleep hot, sleep cold, sleep on your side, sleep on your back, sleep on your stomach. Big and tall sleepers, kid sleepers. Helix has a mattress for everyone. Plus, they're so confident that you're going to be obsessed with their mattress, they give you a 100-night sleep trial. And all of their mattresses come with a 10 to 15-year warranty, depending on the mattress. The point is, they're incredibly confident in what they're giving you. Listen, if someone isn't obsessed with their Helix mattress, I would love to hear from them because I don't think that person exists. It is the most incredible mattress ever made. I think it will improve just mankind and how we treat each other if everyone just got a good night of sleep. And you can get a great night of sleep with a Helix mattress. Like Natalie said, to get your Helix mattress, you go to helixsleep.com, answer a few questions about how you sleep, and they will pair you with a mattress that is perfect for you. Helix is offering 25% off site-wide and 2 free dream pillows. With any mattress purchase, go to helixsleep.com/VIALL. Plus, you can get a free bedding bundle, which includes 2 dream pillows, a sheet set, a mattress protector with any Luxe or Elite mattress order. That's helixsleep.com/VIALL. With Helix, better sleep starts now. Vessi. Vessi is a footwear company that makes waterproof, breathable shoes. And when I say waterproof, we mean 100% waterproof. As autumn breathes new life into the city, Vessi ensures you're ready for every adventure. With waterproof innovation, you'll stride confidently through the rain-soaked streets and embrace spontaneous city moments in complete comfort.
Their Weekend Chelsea shoe is absolutely perfect for fall weather, so you can always say yes to that next adventure. We absolutely love Vessi. Their shoes are 100% waterproof, not water resistant. They're waterproof. It's perfect for any of you city walkers. You can ensure you stay dry and cool with no more wet socks after a walk on a rainy day.
Vessi's got a great lineup with all comfortable, all stylish, and all waterproof shoes. Be sure to check it out. Step into waterproof comfort with Vessi's early Black Friday sale. Stay dry in style with select waterproof Vessis. Now just $99 at Vessi.com. Don't wait. Grab yours before they are gone. Another electric city of Salt Lake.
City.
Another
Yes.
electric
Salt Lake
city.
City.
They are electric.
Oh my God.
What did I say?
You've been
Electric-
one for words. This
Another-
You
section.
got Electric City of Salt Lake.
I got so much in my head.
The Electric City of Salt Lake. Let's go.
Real quick too, did you see Teddy Mellencamp is getting a divorce?
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Do we?
Oh, and we've hung out with both of them. Her.
Oh, you have?
What's her husband's name?
Eddie.
Eddie. Her and Eddie. They, we haven't hung out with them in a minute, but it's sad, especially when you know the couple in person.
Do they seem like a happy couple?
I mean,
I guess you never know.
I mean,
but-
yeah.
They did.
Can't
We
really
weren't like,
speculate
oh
They
my
weren't
god, they're
fighting.
getting a divorce. We
Saw
were
that
just
one
like,
coming.
yeah,
we
they just
didn't
seemed
leave
like
and be like, oh, they fucking hate each other.
typical
Yeah.
couple.
One of you just slides over 20, being like, all right, it was before
Divorce.
Christmas.
Yeah.
Do you
Well-
ever do that when you see couples?
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh
But
yeah.
not Teddy and husband.
Oh yeah.
It's like the couples who clearly hate each other, and you're like, all right, that was like awkward to be around.
You're
you
at
know?
a dinner of like 8 people, and 2 of you made it very uncomfortable for everyone else.
Yeah.
We know.
Yeah, it's
Who's
like we're
afraid
arguing.
of Virginia Woolf? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like you're mad at him because he passed you the water like over the bread and not around the bread. And it's like, ma'am, that didn't feel like we needed to. I loved watching the husbands try to have a meetup, but not know what the fuck to do.
Okay,
John
well-
is like, all right, how do we
Yeah.
how do we start this?
John's
Can
like, I think
someone-
we need. I
production
think we
come?"
need these potato.
The mashed
the
potatoes.
mashed potatoes.
Yeah,
Well,
it
okay,
was so awkward.
first, do we think the fight was necessary? Was one of the husbands
Well, first we
overreacting?
have to talk about the parallel parking.
Oh my goodness.
That was evil.
No,
that was
Wait,
evil.
my
And
favorite
to make
twisted.
us like guess who's in the
I thought it
car,
was
And then
I
it's
thought-
John.
and then John gets
Barlow.
out. Yeah.
This might be a little misogynist of me and sexist for me to say, but like I think less
Cut
of
it
him
out.
as a man.
Yeah. You can't
You
even
can
parallel
start
park
any sentence
anymore
like that.
because of woke.
You can keep
Cut
that
it
in
out.
there. You can
Well,
keep that in there.
Here's the thing: they don't make you parallel park anymore for like the driver's test in California.
don't?
They don't.
That's
They
But
should.
he's not
They
in California.
should.
He's
They
in Salt Lake
should.
City.
I know how
That's
to
the only way you have to park in California.
in LA specifically.
I think it's just very obvious who typically has a driver and who doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh well, yeah. There you go.
Like,
there you go.
That man is not.
Wait, on
you know what I
Justin's
mean?
thing, now I'm like going to be checking the front of my car all the time because I feel like someone's going to be backing in,
I
being
will
like, just
say-
got my license.
Sometimes in LA, I do that. I take a photo of my car if like a car's too close or if they parked over the line. I'm like, just in case.
Wow.
Let's explain together. Not just sometimes.
Wild.
Just
No,
sometimes in
parallel
case I
park
need
That's
it.
what Justin.
In case I need it. I
Being
just have
able to
it.
parallel park well is hot.
I could park a
Yeah.
fucking
It is taught.
train.
I
I'm
think I
great.
could park a boat. I could parallel park a boat.
If you're a
for
mother, you
sure.
can park parallel.
The fight, period. The fight between all of them, John, 100% like overstepped. I like them
Yeah.
showing back the footage. I was like, he's like, when you step
To
towards
me-
my wife, it's like Lisa was walking
Lisa was
away.
and he
in
was
his-
rocking
also-
back and forth like a nervous
Yeah.
Nelly.
Lisa got in Justin's face, and Justin like is messy.
Lisa also said the second time, John, no, John, like
Yeah.
not necessary.
Yeah, Justin was like moving,
But also, like,
not in anyone's
he like
direction.
defending his wife. Like,
Yeah.
you're coming up yelling in the
But not
middle of
even
a
that.
party. So everybody's looking at you, and you're like, your wife is a fucking liar. How do you? Of
Yeah.
course, he's going to be like, my wife's not a fucking liar.
That's the most aggressive he
Also-
was.
Of course.
Also, the step he took was sassy, not aggressive.
Thank
I think
you.
we need to. He said, "Don't talk about my wife."
It wasn't even a step.
Like-
he was literally like rocking back and
Rocking.
forth.
He was like,
Holding a
come-
drink, yeah.
Yeah. You
I mean, to
can't
John's
even,
point,
like-
if someone's gonna step towards your wife, you're gonna do something, right?
For sure.
You're not gonna just stand there and be like,
Yeah.
that's nothing. He's just defending his wife.
But when your wife is Lisa Barlow,
she can defend herself.
But it just speaks to
Exactly.
how much Lisa is a bully, and even with her husband is a bully, and like lies to her. Like, I mean, he's just like repeating Lisa's narrative of events.
Yeah.
And now he looks like an idiot for like, trying to defend his wife's honor because his wife is accusing Whitney's husband, Justin, of like, listen, it's 2024. You shouldn't be accusing men of being physically inappropriate to women if they're not. Like, that's an egregious accusation to make against someone in today's climate.
he wasn't
he-
accusing though.
But even to Whitney's
he was
point,
just prepared if that was
Lisa
the case.
was.
yeah,
but even to Whitney's point is that they've gotten into many of fights, and usually the men are somewhere else
Yes.
talking about God
Mhm.
knows
Mhm.
what. And the idea that you're bringing somebody's husband involved in it, where I'm like, handle it between the two of you. But when you're going up to Justin, yelling at him in the middle of a party about his wife and questioning her integrity, of course it's going to be
Yeah.
upsetting.
And then the after show, Lisa was like, my husband would never talk to a woman like that. She is disparaging Justin's character as a
yeah.
man and in suggesting that he doesn't know how to handle himself or he's aggressive around women when he was anything but in this situation, and exaggerating a narrative to her benefit because anytime Lisa feels like cornered in a box, she's vicious. She attacks.
Yeah.
She's on the, she accuses, she makes up stories. It is
and
dirty.
Mary said on the after show, why does she even need 6-7 lawyers?
Truly.
Literally.
Like, it's because she's trying to cover things up. And
but even the second go
different
around, like
narratives.
Justin's like leaned back against a table essentially. Like he is not aggressive at all. Then John comes in and puts his hands on Justin, where I'm like, again, what did you think was going to happen? And again, you're also putting this idea that Justin was going to come out and just knock Lisa out? Like that's not
that's not
true.
Justin was giving just slightly intoxicated, like just wobbling back a little bit.
He was giving housewife.
Housewife, yeah.
Like he's on, like one thing I'll say about Justin, that man is on the call sheet. And I mean that as the highest compliment. He is clocked in. He is pouring out that Vita tequila like nobody's
He's
business.
calling Jared to the party.
Yeah,
he's serving them
messy.
wine.
He's so messy.
He's a housewife.
He's a housewife.
He was doing too much.
That's a
pouring
supportive
out.
husband.
For sure.
That is making sure your wife gets recasted.
Not that
next
Jared.
season.
Literally.
Well, okay, yeah, maybe. I was like, the Jared husband wasn't supporting Whitney. He was throwing her
Yeah, he
into
was.
the fire.
Whitney said, "Hey, I need you to make a call." Justin said, "I got you." He did his job.
I like to think that Justin called or texted Jared Osmond on his own accord. He was just like, I think this would be funny.
Yeah, I feel like that's how it went. I don't feel like Whitney was involved.
I want to
think
hang
it was
with Justin.
definitely
I
a
think
thing.
Justin can grow out. You know
Justin
what I
is a
mean?
little petty because you're right. When he poured out the alcohol, I was like, girl.
Between any of the couples, I'm hanging out with Justin,
Justin
and
and
Whitney,
Whitney.
for sure.
Like they can gab, they can queen.
I kind of want to hang out with Mary.
Well, yeah.
Mary for sure, but like
Be prepared to be read.
And I want to be.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
begging Mary to read.
she did when she met Natalie. When Natalie was
She read
8
your
months
baby.
pregnant.
She read River.
Yeah.
She's like, "You're
technically.
having a boy."
I was like,
She
well,
read
it's a girl.
How do you
But
think
yes.
Mary feels about Margot Robbie?
Oh.
What are your
She like
takes?
started the internet war. Also, Bronwyn. Love.
Icon,
Love
legend,
her.
girl boss.
What's with all the shit?
So
all over her
now,
house?
so now you love her.
Well,
I'm watching this show.
It almost is like
it was
Justin
more,
and I have
no,
been team Bronwyn
Justin,
Wait
it
a
was
minute.
more of like a
time.
love ya. What's with all the shit?
Okay.
No,
you
but
know,
okay.
it's like love you, Justin.
Yeah.
I was literally.
It's like,
What's
keep
with
going,
all the
keep
shit?
going.
Well, Bronwyn's obviously she's new to the show, just like Brittany,
Yes,
and so
yes.
we're kind of with 6-7 episodes in, we're just kind of like, how do we feel? We're going back and forth. Anytime someone's new, we want to judge, we want to pick them apart, and literally early on this episode, I was thinking to myself, Bronwyn, she seems like a good character person. Yeah, she's got her wardrobe is
Airport costumes.
but even like I wouldn't dress like that, but like but it's just like, man, she seems like I can't really find a real bad character flaw in Bronwyn. And then literally 30 seconds later, it's like shit all over her house.
Okay. But like what I will say is I'm sure that house is fucking massive. And I'm like, that woman
You're trying to defend this?
Well,
I am.
I'm
I
saying,
will.
when-
I'll defend this.
Yeah, when was the last time do you think Bronwyn cleans her own house?
No.
Also,
She can pick up dog shit.
Do you think when was the last time you think Bronwyn
She's got
No,
she
you're
has
probably
20
right.
But
she has 20
I get what
are
you're
those
saying.
dogs?
she has
Boxers.
I
like
get what you're
4.
saying, but what I'm
again,
saying is
once again, we need to point out all named after
House of Cards.
House of Cards, the
Okay.
Kevin Spacey show.
She has
Also,
4
our-
boxers. She's not following them around to see
No,
where they poop.
but she is giving Heather a tour, and if she's giving Heather a tour and Heather is noticing them, she could be like, "Oh my god, excuse me."
That could have been
like,
a
I'm so
fresh
sorry.
poop.
Like,
That could have been we were
Okay.
in the kitchen
No,
and
she
then they did
absolutely
it.
No,
not. When you have
production
company,
didn't
the
tell
fact
her
that she
that
had
they
company
found
with
it.
cameras coming over and she didn't like think to look says something about how she feels
I
about
will
the shit.
say one of
There
the
are one or two
cameramen
possibilities,
set her
Justin.
up.
I think
One of the cameramen
There's
shooting it
also
and not
animal-
telling her is also insane.
Yeah,
There
yeah.
are one
No
or two
one told her.
possibilities. Either Bronwyn's just filthy, and I don't believe that.
No. She doesn't use her kitchen,
Or
though.
she's just like, I don't pick up dog shit.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Which is
Which
fine,
is-
but
He's
if
like,
you
"That
don't,
is
and
not my
I'm very much
job."
Team Bronwyn over Heather, which Natalie is not. But if you don't want to be accused of being a gold digger, be willing to pick up
Okay,
your dog.
that's not the same thing.
That's not the same
Literally
thing.
not
She's
the
been
same
married
sorry,
to
but
the
if
same
you-
woman for
gold
like
digger-
20
No,
years.
wait,
I know people
Yeah.
that
She
don't
bought an
pick
art
up poop and they're
installation
not
for like
gold diggers.
$40,000.
How can we
I'm
say
not
she
saying-
doesn't
diggers.
pick up dog shit? But
Perception is
there's
reality. It just like it perceives as this like I'm just here to shop. Like all we hear, I'm just saying it doesn't. It gives people a window to criticize. I'm sorry. Pick up the if I
1,000%.
I'm not
if I came
following
home,
this train
Natalie
of
doesn't pick up
thought.
dog poop. I pick up the dog poop outside. It's my job. We've
That's
decided.
fine,
it's outside.
But what we're talking
But if
like,
if the dog shit in the house, Natalie and I walked home and I was like, dog shit 4 hours ago, I would have a big problem with that.
For sure. But what I'm saying is that like Bronwyn is like a level of wealth that matches the old New York housewives. Like it's like she is aloof. She is somebody who like could probably
But
look
she
at
doesn't
a
come
turd.
from that. She's
I
not
was
old
about
money.
to say,
It doesn't
came
matter.
From rags to riches.
Sonia
Sierra.
Morgan?
You don't think
Sonia
she's ever
Morgan?
picked up dog
Sonia
shit in her
wasn't
life?
either.
Now she's like, I'm too good.
Once you
We're gonna
marry
pick up-
into like I'm sorry. I'm gonna die on the hill for Bronwyn. I do think
I
that-
love Bronwyn.
I do too. I'm just
I
saying.
think they set her up.
No,
I
no,
don't
no,
think she
but
knew the shit
also-
was there.
But also, I would
actually do think that. I
understand.
do think that.
I
I
would
think they set her up.
understand
They
this
set
point of
my
view.
girl
You think so? Do you think the dog did shit and they went?
Here's the thing: if you're a producer,
They might have.
found out.
Heather is a producer fucking pet for
Yeah.
sure.
1,000%. She was
they
like-
had that 4K close-up angle on that poop. I was like, one of y'all knew this was coming.
Yeah.
Is there a chance that Bronwyn's watching this episode being like,
There is.
No. I
There-
think
actually,
there
now that I'm
is.
thinking
It's
about it, there's
edited
definitely a shot.
after.
There's definitely a chance.
there's no way that Heather saw it and Bronwyn did it.
No, I think
There's
the
not.
producers did it.
You
No,
think
but they could be,
producers did
baby,
what?
think about it. They could
They
be,
like,
Heather,
they
there's
could be,
poop on the
these
ground in the
scenes,
closet.
these scenes take a moment, right? It's not like Heather just shows up. Like Heather's probably waiting outside talking to producers for a while.
Getting
were
mic'd
there,
up.
they were there for hours.
Producer said, guess what? There's dog shit in there.
Heather
Let's go
and
look.
Bronwyn could have been talking dog shits like while they're talking, and they're like, yeah, they could be like, get a camera on this
Back
right
right corner,
now.
Heather.
Then they go interview Heather, producer pet, and be like, it's possible. And
Say,
I
yeah.
don't know. I'm not saying it
guess,
happened, but it's definitely possible.
You
But
went from gold digger to
also-
Logistically-
producer.
Logistically, I'm just saying it's possible.
It's
I'm just telling you what is.
possible.
I just know how this shit works. And I don't know if it happened, but it is possible.
But also, if Bronwyn does not pick up dog shit, why was there not another single person in that house? There was not a housekeeper. There was not a maid. The dog shitting how many times a day? And there's no one else in the house?
Maybe the housekeeper
I mean, that
was
we
coming
saw
later.
on camera. Yeah.
I think it was decor.
Come on.
You think it's decor?
That shit was
I
actually
think it's decor. I
$20,000.
think that. Yeah, I think it was $20,000,
Mhm.
and she has it sitting there, and it's
Yeah.
decor, and it's
Only,
an artistic
only her and
choice.
Rihanna
Yeah.
have this shit.
Rihanna would
Yeah.
never.
I
This
will say we
was on a runway in Paris.
didn't train the dog to poop outside.
Right, we don't have like the most highest,
give you that point.
highest end trainers in the world to train. Boxers are known to be naughty dogs, and so the fact that like
say
immediately she
that
has
again?
a puppy, naughty. The fact that she has a puppy boxer and she's not like sorry, like he's in training. Like there's it's
She needs
like
the bell on the door where you train the dog to ring the bell when it needs to go out.
I don't know.
I think
I
it was
do
pretty-
love how Bronwyn read Heather in terms of I'm watching this, and it's just like.
Yeah.
It was
I said, obviously, I've
gorgeous.
said over this season, why does Heather always seem to be willing to be someone's number two so hard? It's like, it just doesn't make sense. I'm trying to figure out what is Heather's backstory in terms of like the psychological reason that Heather is the way she is. Because like, as a person, I want to like Heather so much. She's so like articulate. She makes good points. She's clearly very smart, observational. I want to ride for Heather, but I hate how she is always like putting herself in a position to be a follower.
Every
It's like she
single
doesn't
time.
have the confidence to be a leader. Like in a world of main character syndrome, it's like Heather doesn't know how to be the main character. And then you hear Bronwyn talking about her high school photo where like Heather always wanted to be in
Angie.
the in,
Angie.
Angie.
It was Angie K.
Angie. It was Angie. Yeah.
Yeah.
And she always wanted to be in the in group. And it's just like, yeah, Heather clearly, it's like Heather grew up idolizing the Regina Georges in high
Yeah.
school. She wanted to be in the in group so fucking bad. And like that
She was
has
a piano kid. So
and
yeah.
that has stuck
Mm.
with her in her adult life. And it's so fascinating, the psychology of Heather.
And this
Yeah.
is why when you would ask me like why I don't like Heather, I couldn't properly articulate it without you seeing it, but it's kind of that. It's like you want so badly to be the shining star under your number one being the number two, that it's like everything that you said last season now all of a sudden cancels out because now you're following Lisa instead of Jen.
And then not Heather being called out by Angie for the drama, like for defending Lisa, and then being offended for her friendship with Jen Shaw.
Yeah.
And it's like she goes, yeah, I mean, I have a cloudy past of like over like defending my friends, the church, blah, blah, blah. But this time, I'm right. You're right because you're defending the bully of the group, Lisa Barlow, who like makes up stories and lies about people when she gets put in her corner. But like this time, you're right, Heather, and you have no reason for us to give you the benefit of the doubt. But you're so sure this time.
Yep.
Huh?
She wants Angie to have her back with Bronwyn, but at the same time is like shocked that Bronwyn's questioning her because she wants to be hazing her because you're the new girl. These are my friends. And it's like, you're all in the same cast.
I think Heather is like the perfect example of somebody who is self-aware, and because they're self-aware, they don't have to change any of their actions.
Heather?
Yeah. Because she knows that that's exactly what she does, and she'll say it. And that's why your talking heads are always like great, because you're like, oh, Heather is completely aware of like what her role is and who she is and the reason she's saying all these things. And then you see her on camera and it doesn't make any sense because she's aware of it. She just chooses not to do anything about it.
Yeah.
What did she call
Like-
herself? She said I'm what binds this group together.
Girl.
And it was just like, Heather,
Yeah,
honey,
It just felt
you're
like
tearing everybody apart.
and why are you on Heather's side for that fight? Is because she gave a bad apology, which she did.
Well, that, but also I just can see Heather's side of it where she's like, at the end of the conversation, Braun was like, well, I was just trying to plan this party
Yes,
or
this part.
this trip and like you're not gonna, and she's like, so this was an initiation, this was me like trying to
That's-
plead my case to come on your
I
trip.
think Bronwyn ate, but I will say if I was in Heather's position, I'm like, so this was a setup?
See,
Literally.
I don't need to be
Yeah.
sitting
I
here.
have to
Bye.
I have to
I think
disagree
it's the
with
opposite.
that.
I think it's a
would walk out too.
projection of Heather. I think
you.
I think
I
Heather.
agree.
I think Heather is very much
Sorry.
like Bronwyn. Bronwyn's the new kid, and like she is initiating Bronwyn into her show, and she's just kind of mean girling. Of course, like yes, like, it wasn't the best apology from Bronwyn, but like Heather's out there perpetuating this like stereotype about the prenup and her being a
Gold digger.
gold digger.
Mhm.
And so
It
yeah.
wasn't really, that was Brittany.
Either way, they're both. They're arguing over semantics, and Bronwyn is kind of like, "Hey, I'll apologize for doing my part, but like, apologize for doing yours." And Heather's just like, "No."
Well, there's like, I'll apologize after you give me an actual apology. She's like, well, I guess I can, like, at times, like,
She
certain,
said,
like,
I-
No,
aspects,
I
like,
think
can, like, sometimes
Bronwyn
be
very
messy.
correctly owned up, and she was like, "You want me to call it messy? It was messy."
But that's not genuine. She's like, you're only saying that because that's what you
But
want.
again,
Heather-
like if this is what Heather wanted, though, it's like
Yeah.
that's the projection of what Heather wanted to see. Where Bronwyn was like, "Listen, I'm going to invite you over. Hopefully, we can sit down and have a nice conversation, take accountability, and then I'll invite you on this trip."
Mhm.
And then Heather's like, "Well,
you have to
Heather went to
apologize.
judge her apology.
Yeah, and
Heather
then was
went
like,
to
yeah.
like, I'm
Okay.
gonna does Bronwyn deserve to be in our group or not? That's what she gave.
Well, it's
Like,
like Heather
Exactly.
Heather just wants to be in a position where she can have power over someone else, and Bronwyn and Brittany are like the new people that she is able to be this head mean girl to,
yes,
where she can still be Lisa's number 2 because Lisa would never, ever, ever let her have power over her.
I have
Mhm.
two thoughts. Okay. I love Bronwyn, but saying I can apologize is not an apology.
no, it was a bad apology.
She never once said, I
Yeah.
apologize or I'm
Yeah.
sorry. She said, I can apologize for that, which is not. That being said, if you're implying I'm a gold digger, I'm not going to throw you on my private jet that my daddy's paying for
1,000%.
and send you to our resort. Like,
Godfather?
Daddy.
Daddy.
you know?
Yeah,
I'm like, so you can leave.
but none
Okay,
of them
bye.
are paying
Zaddy
for it 'cause
Palm
it's a
Pilot.
show.
Yeah.
Daddy
Um,
Bum Pilot?
It's getting harder and harder to watch Brittany on this show.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It really is.
I kinda like her.
Like,
But even then, also just to tie a little knot on that with Heather, where I'm like, Heather definitely says that she can say whatever she wants to say to Brittany, and Brittany's like, well, that hurts my feelings. She goes, yeah, I guess it would, but I'm sorry that it hurt your feelings. Like again, Heather's doesn't have to be genuine when she's talking to Brittany because Brittany's
No.
below her.
Exactly.
She sees Bronwyn as like fighting against her or competing for status, where it's like Bronwyn doesn't have to compete. That's the difference between the two of you.
I mean, after Angie said that about Heather, I understand and see Heather for who
Yeah.
she is so clearly. She can't get out of high
Angie.
school. Like
Thank
she's
you.
still in high school, and she operates just like a clique in high school
Yeah.
operates, and
Well-
she initiates
Yeah.
new people into this group.
from what we can see from the show.
Of
Yes.
course,
Oh, yeah, her
yeah.
character on
Let's- Her
TV.
Her
character
character on
on
TV.
TV.
Yeah.
But
we do
yes.
not know her.
And if you were a nice girl, then I'm like seeing somebody who clearly is a little more needs a little more kitty gloves with handling. Like you're not gonna expose her in a way that you know is just gonna like leave her like broken. And this poor Brittany woman is fucking broken.
But Brittany needs to be
Cuddled.
Heather being like, I've been there, and Brittany's like, well, what happened? She's like, it fucked up my entire life. Like
Mhm.
Brittany needs hard love. She needs like, you are going to ruin your life if this is the man you continue chasing. And I don't think Heather needs to apologize.
The
for
after show
being
kind of
like,
gave that Brittany was still open to a relationship too.
Ugh.
But that's what's
Yeah.
crazy. It's just
That's
like,
the part.
you know, I know it's like, you know, criticizing parenting is a very sensitive topic, but like, let's just keep it fucking real for a second. Like, if you can go on a national television show and admit that you have sacrificed your relationship with your 3 kids for a person who over and over and over again is so clearly clear about how they think about you and treat you, and you continue to give that person more of a priority and attention than your own children, it's like that is a choice,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and it's hard to defend that choice. And also, it's just like what's interesting about Brittany's narrative is like she talks as if she's never found love, and I don't doubt that she, like, clearly she's single now and whatever age that she's at, so clearly she hasn't found the love that's like never failed. That's, you know, which we all of us only get one of those.
Mm-hmm.
But like she has 3 kids, and it's just like I guess my point is like sometimes we always talk about on the show like your life is just a matter of your own perspective and how you look at it. And Brittany has this kind of like I've never found like she centers her love above everything in her life, even her own children, right? And which is kind of crazy. Like Nallie's mom is very open; she wants to go on the Bachelorette. Nallie's mom also like has had some tough luck when it comes to relationships and love throughout her life. Like she is currently single. She hasn't found that relationship that has never failed. But like Nallie's mom makes it very clear who comes first in her life, and that is her kids and her, and it's like her grandkid and things like that. And yeah, she still wants to find love and she still goes out and she still prioritizes herself at times. But the way Brittany does it is it's hard to defend. It gives, I'm sorry, like you can judge someone for their parenting choices. Like you're not a good parent just and I think sometimes, especially the people who have a lot of money, who are very good at like being sometimes self-centered and centering their needs above anyone else's. And sometimes we just like, what do we do to win back affection of our kids or loved ones? We give them what they want, or we buy them trips and we throw money or gifts at them and things like that. And that's not always good parenting, And again, I'm just using Brittany's words of admitting that she has sacrificed her relationship with her kids for a man who continues to do that. And at some point, it is on you, the parent, till you have to look in the mirror and question your choices. And your relationship with your kids. I don't know how else to look at it. Like, I know that might sound harsh, but fuck.
I do think, like, in some conversations we've had that Bernie does deserve grace, but like in this instance that you're saying it, I do think some of her values and priorities are in the wrong place. Because even in the after show, she was saying how she goes on like multiple dates in one night and how she has a spreadsheet. And like her spreadsheet is like a serious thing she does where she updates it.
It's like, girl, take a break.
Yeah,
When I'm just like, maybe
take your kids on a trip.
Or maybe just like date and not catalog everything and then like spend some time with your kids in the process, you know?
She also says that in the after show, but then she also talks about like romanticizing her parents' wedding or marriage. They met for 6 days, got married, and then were together for like 50 years until the mom
So she wants that
passed.
kind of love for herself.
But I'm like, somebody else's love story is not yours.
Well, Brittany cares way too much about the appearance of things and the story.
What's Mormonism?
Maybe so, yeah. I mean, sure, yeah. But like when she was singing
Yeah.
and she was playing the conductor,
Yeah.
like
she used to be like a singer. Have you seen this?
I don't doubt that she was.
She's posting like videos. She was on Broadway. She was on stages in
But she
front of
doesn't
like.
need to be conducting a group of friends singing a song.
But she's the one hosting the family.
I'm just saying it just gives appearances matter in that moment.
Yeah. I wish we knew more about Brittany's background.
I know. I want to know more about Brittany,
her
not about
family
Jared.
and stuff,
Like,
yeah.
I just don't care
Like,
about
I feel like we're getting
Jared.
siloed into
Stop.
this like storyline that there's probably more of her to offer.
Yeah.
But just side note,
She needs to offer it.
I just loved when Angie brought the bottle of wine, like, and was just
I
like,
see
"Well,
her
I saw
drinking
you
all the
slugging
time."
it down. I didn't know that this was not the occasion."
Angie
she's, like,
Katzenberg
so
is the
inappropriate,
woman
and it's
that
like,
you are.
Babe, you're constantly chugging wine.
She's
How
also
is this
Greek, not
inappropriate?
Mormon, so give
Yeah.
it a pass.
Yeah.
Well, Brittany and Jenn, very similar. Jenn from OC.
Yeah, they do remind me of each other.
And which I also forgot, and we'll get into it with Emily. She's coming up next. I forgot. I would just like Salt Lake City, where I'm watching this episode. In the middle of this episode of Salt Lake City, I'm like, I can't find a flannel bra one, and then shit over the floor. Like Jenn, I'm watching it. We've been highly critical of Ryan, and it's just like he seems very shady. And I'm halfway through. I'm thinking to myself, you know what? Fuck it, man. If Jen's happy, let her be happy, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of forgot the backstory of Jenn and Ryan, how she like blew up her entire family and left her marriage and her kids for this guy who had a reputation of sleeping with married women. And then the finale of OC ends
That was
with
the
the
finale?
arrest.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was finale. I met someone this weekend and he looked like Ryan, and I was like, I was like, what are you
Scary.
hiding?
I just like, it's just like you're making choices in adult life.
They
that
want to
affect-
welcome love, but they're like choosing the wrong love.
Well, we all we all want love, but again, like sometimes when you get so obsessed with how things aren't working out for you, you alienate some of the people that you should be protecting and closest to you. And it's just like,
The one thing I'll say about that is that it's ignoring red flags, even with Jared and
Yeah.
Brittany, but also
So choosing,
if you don't know what your significant other does for a living or
First
like
of
how they
all-
attain
Yeah.
their wealth,
Sunshine is not a good enough answer.
Yeah, I was about to say the fact that has never been a question to Jenn of like Ryan's like, oh, I've been in
Mortgages.
what was he was on Watch What Happens Live, and Andy Cohen is like, well, Ryan, what do you do? And he's like, I've been in real estate mortgages, whatever, for the last 20 years or whatever the fuck he said. Why wasn't Andy then like, well, Jenn, then why didn't you say that whenever they asked
something
you what,
inside of her might have known or assumed.
yeah, it's like instead you were like, he likes to play in the sunshine. You could have been like, oh, he's in real estate mortgage brokerage, whatever.
Everybody's in
He
real
has
estate,
been-
just
Yeah.
saying.
Or he's retired, like just like some like I don't know.
I think with like Jenn and Brittany, again, we've all been them, but we were 21, and then or 25 or 20, or at some point we learned.
Mm-hmm.
At some point in life, even if we made the same mistake over and over a few times, we learned. And here you have Brittany and Jenn in their 50s making these mistakes that are like, again, don't just affect them, affect so many people around them.
But to a degree, that's like bound to happen because they're kind of like an example of the times, right?
What do you mean?
Of like women that were kind of raised to just be kind of subservient and
Yeah.
like protect the family regardless of their own needs. So they put that before themselves, and then now they're in a relationship or they're not in a relationship that they chose themselves and they don't know how to.
It's hard for me to look at Jenn and Brittany and think these are two women who always put others before them and now they're not. I just don't see that.
I feel like it's more they were raised with the idea that they had to put others before them, and it's just a reactionary selfishness because of the way they were raised more than that. You know what I mean?
I'm like others before or like prioritizing marriage and a man because he's going to take care of everything.
I think that's more of what it is. And then
Yeah.
it's like, oh, well, I have to prioritize finding my man.
Exactly.
I just think if you were raised to always prioritize others before you, specifically when it comes to Brittany, you don't openly admit how you lost your relationship with your own kids
But
for a
don't
fuckboy.
Mormons believe that you can't like women won't go to heaven if they're not married? Like it's like there's like weird things that are tied along with their religion too, to where it's like
That's been implied on Salt Lake City. before.
Yeah.
Yeah, but again, like Brittany, how Mormon are you? You drink? You're not? You don't drink? I mean, again, I get it, but at
Mormons
some point you
2.0.
can't blame your religion or your parents or your upbringing. At some point, you have to just like look in the mirror and say, what kind of person do I want to be? And you can use excuses of how you were raised or religion you were brought up in, or you can just like, again, because Brittany clearly knows better. You know what I'm saying? If you can admit to have lost touch with your kids over a man, then you know better.
That part is hard to comment on though because you don't know enough about our kids.
Eh,
Like, what does that mean, lost touch?
it's always great seeing somebody's first season on one of these shows and then seeing them come back for the second season because a lot of
Yeah.
them are not self-aware. So when they finally watch like how the things that they've said and like the things that they're willing to die on, they come back second season being like, actually, okay,
I'm ready to speak.
yeah.
Yeah. I feel like Brittany is going to come back next season.
I hope they bring her back.
I do too. And I think she's going to come back next season with a very different.
outlook for
Outlook.
sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
she would be easy to root for if she like starts making healthier choices.
Yeah.
Because you want to see, like, again, Jenn, you want to root for, but when you are reminded of their choices, it's I don't know. For me, it's tough to get behind.
Right.
Let's bring in Emily, who's going to walk us through some of these legal things going on with Ryan. Hey, Emily.
Hello.
Hey, team. Good to see you.
How's it going?
It's good. It's busy, but it's good.
Well, we were watching the finale of OC last night, and obviously they picked up the cameras back up because Ryan's friend got arrested, and it was this whole thing. And I'm like, I need to call Emily. We need to get her on the show because obviously there's just a lot of speculation going on with Ryan, his friend. Here, and there was this hot mic moment of him joking, not so joking, about having a money launderer, which I thought to myself, is that like, did he just admit to a crime right there? Because isn't that illegal? Like laundering in general?
It is.
I don't know. I had a lot of questions, so I was like, we got to get our legal expert, Emily Baker, on the show to get her insight. How you doing, Emily?
I'm good. Happy to be here. I saw your text and I'm like, I love you guys record on Mondays because Mondays is literally my most available day of the week. So I was like, this is perfect. I want to talk about OC too. You know how much I love reality TV. And I went through all the court documents because, of course, I'm curious and it's all in court documents. And I also grew up in LA, so also a Dodgers fan. And with all of this interwinding into the Shohei scandal, I was just like, oh, I want to look at all of it.
Well, we love that you did that, and we appreciate it. So what did you find?
Well, as we were going through court documents, it's clear that Ryan's friend knew that this was coming down the pike because of what was going on with the interpreter. And they both would have known that the feds were closing in because the information came down and there was a plea deal on file that was signed before the information was filed. So this would have gone down with the feds being like, hey, we would like to talk to you, and him being like, hey, I would like to tell you everything. Please give me a plea. So it looks like that plea was negotiated before the information even came out. And that was signed in late May. So
wow.
that he knew he was taking a plea deal before anyone even knew that he was wrapped into part of this. So I imagine, I don't know when that final episode aired. I don't know when they were recording OC. You guys probably do better than I do. But as of May, the friend knew he was taking a plea deal and knew that this was going to become public at some point because they're filed publicly. And his name was going to be connected to the interpreter for the Dodger who had been gambling. Not the Dodger, the interpreter. The interpreter was arrested. The interpreter pled guilty as well, will be sentenced in December. The Ryan's friend, Matthew, will be sentenced in February, but he also has to pay back over $1 million in taxes. There's restitution. He's facing prison time, but it's a first offense. And he pled guilty to bookmaking, which being a bookie, which you can't do, to money laundering and to tax fraud. But in the bookkeeping, he also said that there were at least 5 people operating this business with him. And it looked like they were operating out of one and maybe more casinos where they were bringing casino hosts in to help them funnel clients, that the people involved in the business were gambling regularly at these casinos to drum up business. They were regularly in Vegas. And the money laundering count is about moving money from the bookkeeping business in OC into casinos in Nevada. So when the ladies on OC are talking about the fact that Ryan's always flying private jets out to Vegas, I'm like, well, this guilty plea talks about what he was doing in Vegas, which was sports booking and drumming up clients. But you can't sports book in California. It's illegal. That's why the feds went after this. But it seemed that the feds were keying in on what the casinos were doing and then followed kind of the trails out from what was stemming in the casino and then following out the investigation from there.
Is it possible that Ryan could be guilty of being linked to his friend and being involved in his friend's nefarious activities? And then like the feds just deciding he's not big enough of a fish to like involve? Or if he's guilty, they would definitely follow through with charges? Like what assumptions can we make?
So he got an immunity deal. They talked about it on the show. They've talked about it in numerous news
Ryan did?
articles. Yes.
They also filmed the finale in April, for context.
Okay.
So this all went down before that plea deal. Thank you. This all
Yeah.
went down before that plea deal was signed as these conversations are happening. I worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office before I graduated from law school. Nothing moves quickly. When they say law and government moves slow, nothing moves quickly. But they would go out and have all these conversations with individuals, including Ryan, to figure out if he's going to be a target or a witness or both. You don't give an immunity deal if somebody doesn't know anything. And if somebody is a witness, they don't need immunity because they weren't involved. You get immunity so that you don't get prosecuted when you tell people what you know, and what you know also involves your illegal activity. If you see a car accident on the street and you stop and go, hey, this person didn't stop at the red light, nobody needs to give you immunity. You saw what you saw. So the fact that he has an immunity deal for this indicates that he was involved enough that his lawyers said, if we tell you what we know, you could prosecute us for it, and we're not going to do that. How much he was involved is unknown, but we know that people were helping get clients at the casinos. We know that people were moving money in and out of the bank accounts they were using. We know that they've been friends, Ryan and Matthew, for over 20 years. We know that Ryan helped bail Matthew out of a 2011 bankruptcy. They are not unfamiliar with each other's business dealings based on court records. Is Ryan named in any of these court records? No. Are other individuals stated as other individuals? Yes. The only one we know that has an immunity deal is Ryan because of the TV show.
But like him having, like you said, but him having an immunity deal means that like he's guilty of something, right?
He knows enough shit that he could be prosecuted. So there's enough there that he could be prosecuted for it. And that's more than nothing. I hate to be all lawyerly about it.
No, I hear you. Yeah.
He knows more than he's letting on. I mean, they took hundreds of thousands of dollars out of his buddy's house when they raided the house, and poker chips, and those have all been now forfeited to the government. There were multiple bank accounts that were in the names of other individuals. Was this stuff moving through Ryan's bank account? That's not what court records say. Do we know that Ryan was going to the casinos with him on the regular while he is running a bookie business out of California where it's illegal? Yeah, we know that he was doing that, and he doesn't seem to shy away from it, and then was making light of all of it. Who knows if that immunity deal or conversation happened before he's making a joke about all of this or not?
So much of obviously our commentary around the show is around, specifically with the situation with Jenn, is it's like, what does she know or not know? I don't think anyone thinks that she's involved, but it's more like, how in denial has Jenn been about her partner? And I'm curious, in your, extensive experience, I'm assuming you've dealt with a lot of spouses, some of which may have been connected with their criminal partner, and some who are just kind of like just completely in the blind and had no idea. But just as a fan and as someone who has an expert opinion on this type of topic, like, how do you read this situation with Jenn? And does it remind you of situations you've seen in the past in your career?
I mean, just to go to reality TV, I'm going to give Jenn kind of the same evaluation that I give like an Erica Girardi. How much do they know about what the person who's bringing in the bulk of the money is doing, and how much is willful ignorance? Like, the bills are paid. I don't care. He doesn't seem to go to an office, but maybe money's fake on the internet, so who knows? I know my spouse knows how much I work because he sees how often I'm in my studio working. But how much is it normalized for women to be like, oh, I don't know where the money comes from. All my credit card bills are paid. It's fine. And so is there a willful ignorance there? Possibly. And do I think Jenn knew exactly what he was doing or how illegal it was? I would hate to think someone would put their kids in jeopardy like that and put themselves in financial jeopardy like that. But there's a real possibility there that if the feds didn't want to give him immunity, they could have prosecuted him the same way and be like, hey, this is what's going on. Also, that immunity doesn't seem to extend. It seems to be immunity for these behaviors, the bookie behaviors or any money moving. That's not going to extend to tax liability. And once you're on the radar of the federal government, the IRS isn't far behind going, oh, you were connected to these people who are already committing tax fraud. Let's go look at all of your taxes too. So he might not be out of the woods all the way yet. And that can impact her stability in future as well.
I mean, it was a bad episode for Jenn to be like, he tells me everything and
He's
I
my
tell
best
him
friend.
everything. It's like, well, if he tells you everything.
That was a giant fucking engagement ring.
Massive. But is it, I mean, again, the internet can be fake. Is
Sure.
that, there are lots of options to buy massive rings on Amazon. So not saying that hers is or isn't, but it's not a great look if there's a worry about potential tax implications. And I can't imagine in any plea deal his lawyer wouldn't have asked, is the IRS looking into him and his businesses and where this money's coming from, because it was so obvious in his friend Matthew Boyer's case. So I imagine we'll see more.
I'm always so shocked by people's, I don't know, their brazenness. But I'm curious what
the hubris.
Yeah, the hubris, right? Because here is this guy, Ryan, who really looks like what we're seeing is surrounding himself with shady people, maybe does some shady things on his own, but like doesn't make much sense to go on to marry a housewife and be so public about your life in a way and show your wealth and show your opulence if it is earned in a shady way that might put a spotlight from the government. What is your read? Is this because like criminals just kind of are cocky in that way? Like, I'm just kind of shocked that, if the people trying to hide something would do a better job of hiding things.
So there was a judge that I worked for who had a plaque on his desk that said, "We don't catch the smart ones." He had been a former AUSA. And there is a level of arrogance bordering into probably DSM diagnoses that is very prevalent with fraud defendants, because they think they are smarter than everyone and that what they're doing is just something nobody else understands. Like, it's just business. Nobody else gets it. Ask Jen Shah. She knew the feds were coming for her. She knew her co-defendants had been arrested all before she started filming Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and was still on the show with the big fake rented house and all the assistants and the money and the closet full of everything. And screenshots of that got used in her federal criminal prosecution. We've seen this time and time again, but to be on reality TV, there has to be a level of it's all going to be fine, right? Otherwise, who would? I could never. I could never. I'm also very boring, but I could never sign myself up for the internet digging into my life in the way that it happens to reality stars and say this seems like fun to me. But there is a level of hubris there that I think goes hand in hand with being on reality TV. We saw it starting with Teresa Giudice and her husband. You know, they were paying cash with everything. It raised some red flags, and nosy people working in government offices went, I wonder what's going on there. And then uncovered mortgage fraud and tax fraud. And once their eyes are on you, there's a lot of options the feds have, and taxes tends to be a pretty easy way to go. So I'm not surprised by it, but still surprised by it.
Yeah.
He can't have been confused that bookmaking was illegal and that this is his closest friend who he's at least traveling with. And if he thinks that people aren't going to uncover that on the show, not just members of the show, but the audience when it starts airing, I think that at this point in time is just incredibly arrogant. Maybe early days reality TV, that's not the expectation, but that ship has sailed. We know that that's happening now because we've seen it happen on franchise after franchise again and again and again. You have to expect that that's happening.
For him to joke about having a money launderer, you know,
Crazy.
is like on camera, like the hubris that requires. And you make a good point, Emily. It's just like the internet is so noisy that as a public figure, they will look into things and make things up that are completely false, let alone like if you're actually doing something and then you're flaunting your life for people to like ask questions is crazy behavior. It is wild.
It's wild to me. And when you look at even like Kyle Richards having her house broken into when she was traveling, if you go back into the days of like the bling ring that was prosecuted by the LA County District Attorney's Office, if you look back to that, just flaunting what's in your home and where you might live and when you're traveling is a bad enough idea. I had celebrity victims who had been robbed by assistants when they were traveling for things, who had people break into their homes and steal things while they were traveling. This is not uncommon. So to flaunt that level of wealth on the internet, knowing that these things happen, because I don't think anyone doesn't know that's really dialed into reality TV that that's also a problem. You put yourself at risk and you put your family at risk. I'm not going to hate on reality stars renting a house to show on a show so that where they actually live is never on television. I don't think that's a terrible idea at all. I think it's a safety thing. But showing everything you own in your closet is maybe opening you up for those who would do illegal things to harm. So we saw it with Dorit.
Yeah.
I mean, we saw it with Kim Kardashian in France, like over and over and over again. We've seen people robbed for stuff like this.
Yeah. Wow.
It's not great.
How was Ryan involved with the interpreter and the $16 million of the Dodger player? Was he involved in that or no? Do we know?
The court documents are silent, but we know that the interpreter was using a middleman to pass money along to Matthew, and that person is called Individual One. We have seen news outlets connect the two and say that that was in fact Ryan.
Interesting.
But we have not seen him listed in court documents, and we probably won't because he has immunity. But we have seen ESPN and others make that connection and say that that was in fact him that was making that middleman connection. And then we've seen others on the show talking about the fact that Jenn was perhaps bragging about the fact that they were connected to that Dodger player. But what do you guys think about Tamra bringing this all up early on in the season and Eddie being like, shh?
Well, Ryan has either threatened or is actually suing Tamra. And I know anyone can sue anyone for anything, so to speak. But I guess, can I throw that back to you, Emily? It's just like, if Ryan clearly is involved, has an immunity deal, like, I know he can sue, I guess, Tamra for saying anything, but what is Tamra saying that is wrong? I'm curious, is like, how do you see it in terms of, you know, Tamra's wrong about a lot of things this season, but when it comes to Ryan, she actually seems to be right. And I'm curious, like, what is her liability in this lawsuit if Ryan follows through with it?
So I haven't seen him file anything. I also wonder if the threat of a defamation suit is enough to rein Tamra in, because we did see her issue an apology and she was sued by Jim Bellino in the past. We learned more this season how much that cost them. The threat of lawsuit might be enough for her to be like, that was incredibly expensive. Even if I'm right, it's not worth the money to prove that I'm right, which can be so difficult with defamation suits. Though California does have a very strong anti-SLAPP, and then he could end up paying her attorney's fees. I wonder if when that was going on, what he was thinking, that it would never come out that he had immunity. Like, how do we get from him threatening her after she's on What Happens Live to him at least disclosing that he has immunity so that it ends up in the final episode as they're talking about what's going on with everyone as they wrap up the show? Does he think this isn't going to come out? Because it's all out now, and it was all out.
Well, I can promise you he had no idea about that hot mic money launderer comment. Like, I guarantee you, Jenn and Ryan learned about that comment when we all did, because they certainly didn't remind him of it. You know, they were saving that. They didn't give him the heads up for sure. And I'm really curious about the conversations him and Jenn are having behind closed doors today or this week. I will say it does make me think a little bit less of Jenn, who, like, again, just Tamra's annoyed us all this season. We've spoken about it, her behavior as a housewife, but she is operating in the context of her job. Like, she may be messy, you know, we can debate that, but she is doing her job. For Ryan to threaten a suit and for Jenn to back her man the way she did publicly, knowing that Ryan might be very guilty for all these things, it feels wrong and dirty. You know, it's one thing to be messy on a reality TV show where you're hired to be messy, but for Jenn to, again, just blindly support this guy because she's so afraid to admit that she made a terrible decision to blow her life up for her own, like, love story.
She said that this episode. She was like, I fucked everything up.
Yeah, but then now she's like, she seems to be backtracking because they announced that she's following through with the wedding. Again, a few weeks ago, she's been very much like having her man's back, having Ryan's back, going, you know, basically saying, Tamra, you're going to pay for this kind of thing. Like,
I think Gina said it properly. You're putting yourself in the line of fire if you choose to marry this man.
Also, like, on Watch What Happens Live, Andy asking, like, is there a prenup? And him being like, no, like, everything. And it's like, because allegedly all of your money isn't even yours. So, like, of course you're not going to, like, keep it from her.
Yeah.
I just wonder if that lure of another season, it's like, do we get another season if we're with him? Does that pull that storyline through? I wonder if this is a, you know what, we're going to ride through the storyline, whether this is the best life choice. Is this the best choice for content or for the show? And are these decisions now being made for the show? But someone has to talk to her about what the potential tax liability looks like and remind her of how this went for Erica Girardi, who thought life was going to go one way and is now very much like, I don't know what life looks like. And we've seen how messy that's been for her. Not only does she probably have at least $1 million, if not more, in legal fees, but this is never going to end for her because her husband's bankruptcy is hers because they are married. So when Tom Girardi's bankruptcy eventually ends, anything that's not paid off or discharged is going to go to Erica to cover. So she's been, you know, separated for over 4 years, but those bills are still hers. Though the tax liability Ryan incurs before they get married is one thing, you've now got somebody who has a target on their back from the federal government, and they're going to look into everything that you do for a while going forward because it's easier than finding new cases.
So wait, I was just thinking about that. So the fact that Jenn is not married to Ryan makes it even more crazy that she's thinking about marrying this man,
That's what
because
Gina
once
said
she
it.
marries him, the IRS does not care about you not knowing or playing ignorant, right? Like, you're still guilty.
If the documents are signed, there's little you can do to get away from the financial responsibility on it. You might not get criminally prosecuted, but the money will still be owed. And even if you get divorced after that, the money will still be owed, where I think there's room for her to have independent counsel, have a very real and honest conversation with her. I'm sure she has not done this, but have a very real and honest conversation with her about what that looks like if you get married, what it looks like if you have a prenup, what it looks like if you don't, and maybe a long engagement and see how the season goes and see what the IRS does is a better option. But also, do they want to capitalize on that for when cameras go up in 2025?
Keep it a promise ring.
Couldn't the government or whoever, IRS, whoever might be going after Ryan and then potentially Jenn, let's say Jenn moves forward with this marriage, right? And she's just love blinders on. She just wants to ride for her man. The fact that we're discussing Ryan's involvement so much, doesn't that make Jenn look like she must have known something? Couldn't they use that against her? Of just like, because it's one thing to like go about your life and no one's asking you questions and you never thought to ask the questions. And you're just like, I don't know, like we just had money and I just trusted that my partner was being honest. But like this is coming up so much. And then for Jenn to then marry the guy, she looks a lot more complicit than, say, someone who just, no one's ever asked them a question. They never thought about it. Like it is hard to look at this situation, especially if Jenn moves forward with this wedding, to think that she knew nothing was going on, right? I mean,
well, she knows now. How much she knows is always up for debate. Only even she might not know. Only Ryan really knows how much Jenn actually knows, but it definitely raises questions going forward, though she's not going to be held responsible for things going backward. I also wonder if she's fully aware of what that immunity means. And by way of example, as Nevada's going forward with the state level prosecution for the murder of Tupac by Keefe D, he had federal immunity for things and wrote a book. I think, and this is my speculation, that he thought that federal immunity covered everything. And so when he wrote the book talking about all of the things he was involved in, he was like, but we're good because the feds said I was fine. And then the state of Nevada came in and went, well, we can prosecute murder too, boo. So here we go. There are still state level prosecutions that can happen, which also confuses people that we have federal level prosecutions and then state level prosecutions. And sometimes you can have prosecutions for the same behavior at the state level versus the federal level, depending on what you're doing. And California, I don't need to tell anyone that lives there, is a state that's going to get its money. So you can have issues with the federal tax board and the IRS, and then the franchise tax board with California at the minimum. And those can just be penalties and late taxes. There can be criminal responsibility for that too, though it's not as common on the state level, but it happens. And then you can have state prosecutions for bookkeeping, for money laundering, and what have you. So they're not all the way out of the woods. And if she thinks that they are, she needs her own counsel to walk her through all of the worst case scenarios. That's what lawyers do. We're really good at catastrophizing stuff. Great career path for anyone with anxiety that catastrophizes anyway. It's like your job to think of the worst case scenario about everything. So she needs a voice that's just for her, not someone who also works with Ryan, but someone who can talk to her about what her potential ins and outs are on this, so she can make a real decision about if it's worth it for the show. I don't know how much she's getting paid for the show.
Yeah.
Is it going to be worth it down the road? And then if she loops that money in with his money and he has tax issues down the road or continues to, that has real implications for her. If he needs to file bankruptcy, that has real implications for her if they're married, less if they're not married.
That's why I wonder if we watch the reunion, like if she's going to be coached. Because this is like a 3 month like difference, maybe more. So it's like, has she gotten that advice? Like, will she talk about the situation differently?
Well, that's a good point, because when I said they probably learned about the hot mic moment with Ryan this week, and that's probably not true. She learned about it probably before she filmed the reunion, because obviously I'm sure they picked
up cameras.
They picked up cameras, but they were probably shown, I'm assuming, most of the finale before they filmed the reunion.
I would think so, yeah.
So I'm guessing they would address that. But it will be really interesting what is discussed at the wedding. It's also interesting whether the show would give Jenn good advice or not, depending on what they wanted their character to get them involved.
Well, to Emily's point, people want her
you
back.
Think the show's gonna give her good advice?
No.
Yeah.
The show wants the show.
No, I know, but it's like you would think someone would be like, "Hey, talk to a lawyer on your own," like.
Then Bravo gets looped in. If they're like, "You need to go get counsel," and they get involved, they can get looped. From production standpoint, production's like, girl, you got to do what you want to do, but maybe talk for somebody. But isn't production's job to get the messy moments out and to let the mess continue? Isn't that the goal?
Yeah. No, their job is to just be there and film.
Yeah, make a TV show.
And be the lubricant between scenes.
Going back to Tamra and Ryan and the lawsuit or lack thereof, Ryan had responded online saying that he hired the same attorney that Jim Bellino hired to sue Tamra previously and Shannon, but he said she was served yesterday. So what's the difference between filing and somebody being served?
If she was served, they would have had to file it unless they are talking about a cease and desist.
It was a cease
So
and
if they are
desist.
talking about a cease and desist, no lawsuit needs to be filed. The letter goes out going, hey, knock it off, or we will sue you, versus a suit being actually
A
filed.
warning, yeah.
Okay.
So, like, a cease and desist is just like a legal warning.
Yes, it's a shot across the bow, knock it off, or we will do this. And it doesn't necessarily mean a lawsuit will come. And if a cease and desist goes out and then there's an apology, normally that's the end of it. In civil, both sides generally don't want to pay what it's going to cost to do these things. However, if it's a lawyer that's already like, look, I know how this woman operates, I know who her lawyers are, like, let's ride, I've already done this once. The person who wins in all of these civil lawsuits are always the attorneys. So if they're going to get paid by Ryan, they'll send all the letters you want them to send, and they'll be like, sure. I mean, we might lose, but we also know that it cost her hundreds of thousands of dollars last time. Though with the anti-SLAPP in California, which is generally used around free speech and statements made and defamation defenses, if you lose in those early stage motions, the side that filed the lawsuit pays all the legal fees for the side that won those. And we've seen content creators use those to great success. So if Tamra is correct in what she said, and I don't have the exact words to like lawyer parse exactly what she said, but if she said the FBI was looking into all of this, is he going to come in and say, actually, it was Department of Homeland Security that was looking into all of this, and have a jury ever be like, okay, same, like, really? So I don't know. He has immunity. So the feds obviously had a conversation with him, and his lawyer said to media outlets that he was working with the feds on the case. So I don't think she's 100% wrong without, again, having her exact words in front of me. And then she apologized pretty quickly.
She did.
Jumping quickly away from OC, why has P. Diddy been silenced? Why am I hearing nothing about this case anymore? Why is nothing coming out anymore? What's going on? Or am I just not looking in the right place?
Well, honestly, it's the news cycle. I've still been covering it, but it's the news cycle leading up to the election is that the attention is elsewhere. And I think there's so much anxiety about the election that the news is leaning into that, maybe not in the healthiest way, but there's quite a lot going on in both the civil lawsuits and the criminal lawsuits, with Diddy trying to make sure all of the victims are named in every single lawsuit. All of those Busby civil lawsuits, not all of them, but a lot of them have different judges. One judge has already said, look, if the plaintiff isn't named, we're not moving forward. Some of the judges have said, we will take this matter up once Diddy has been sued and the companies have been sued. So there's a lot of movement, but the news cycle has been very full of other things. And I think that's why you're not hearing about it as much as you were. I think we'll hear about it more. There will be lots of catching up to do, but there hasn't been any new court hearings. Diddy has filed an appeal with regard to him being denied bail. That's still pending. So we're waiting for things, but his lawyers have been actively filing for more particulars from the federal government. And we learned last week, have you guys heard about this? The grand jury is still ongoing.
Yeah.
So what
The
does that
grand
mean?
jury is still ongoing, according to a lawyer for a witness who was called to testify before the grand jury, still looking into more indictments against Diddy. So the grand jury is still investigating. So we are a long way from done, and there will likely be more indictments because the grand jury is still ongoing.
I'm just shocked that other celebrity names haven't. There's always speculation, but that just seems like wild internet speculation. But it's clear that Diddy has been involved with other celebrities. We've seen a ton of photos being leaked about some of these parties.
The new witness that testified for the grand jury claims to have 8 tapes off 11 drives that was supposedly given to him by somebody close to Kim Porter. So he was forced to name names and confirmed some of the speculation that has been out there.
I want to see these other names.
Didn't they just come out with
I
an
think it's gonna be a
athlete?
minute.
It was like an athlete stopped Diddy from doing something to a young boy.
There have been numerous stories. I don't think we've seen broad descriptions, but not names. But yes, the stories are starting to bubble up. And I think anyone who saw anything is probably calling whatever lawyer they know saying, what do I need to do here? Am I going to get called in front of a grand jury, especially people who were at those white parties? And then in all those civil suits we're seeing come out, the civil suits all have like specific incidences and after certain events, like this one after the VMAs and this one after the BET Awards. So I think people who are at those parties are probably also reaching out to their own counsel to figure out what they need to do or not do. And I imagine down the road, we will see some of these names bubbling up. I imagine for the civil attorney, he would rather those individuals reach out and be like, keep my name out of this, whatever it takes, and resolve those things to the side. And on the criminal case, the US attorneys do not want a full sideshow of celebrities who may be really good witnesses for them. So they don't want their names out in the media because they don't want them to get cold feet. So we might see this through witnesses, but we might not see that through witnesses yet. And right now, the internet, of course, is like, well, who spent the most time around him and what did they see? J-Lo.
Yeah, there's these J-Lo's
Yeah.
photos are. One more question, different case. The Menendez brothers, do you think they will get out of prison? I know the LA district attorney mentioned that he favored a resentencing. What does that all mean? Is it going to come down to the court of public opinion when it's all said and done in terms of the motivation of the judge or the DA of granting a resentencing or things like that? Are they just going to basically go on what they think public sentiment is leaning more in favor of?
I don't think the judge is going to go off public sentiment. I think the sentiment of the victims' families should be incredibly impactful to the court. There are mixed sentiments, strongly mixed sentiments among the LA County District Attorney's Office. And there will be, when this goes to hearing, there will be district attorneys from the office who oppose to resentencing. And then the district attorney, this will be post-election, so we'll see if he's the district attorney or not anymore, but he is very much in favor of the resentencing. To do that, they have to remove the special circumstances. So when the Menendez brothers were convicted after their second trial, there were special circumstances on that case. Those special circumstances mean that they were eligible for only life without parole because the office didn't choose to seek the death penalty. Largely, I would imagine, given their age, though I don't quite remember if that's exactly why they chose that. But the special circumstances made them not eligible for parole ever. The court would have to remove those special circumstances that the jury determined and found to then resentence them to 50 to life, to then take advantage of the youthful offenders to make them eligible for parole. So that's what the DA currently is advocating for. Others in the office are not on board with that plan. The jury found the special circumstances. This evidence, they are saying, was known. But then there's also a bid for clemency from the governor, who could commute the sentences and say, yes, let them out. There is also a pending habeas petition that is saying there's new evidence here that was not known before that came out during the documentaries. And so there should be a new trial granted. I don't think that's the option anyone in the Menendez camp wants, seeing how long they've been in custody. So there's like a multi-prong wave going on. Do I think at the end of the day, a court might consider resentencing them? Yeah, maybe. They really might. But it's not going to be an easy decision for a judge. I don't know if that decision will be made the day they go to hearing in Los Angeles, but there has to be a hearing. I think the most impactful will be the victims' families and the Menendez brothers' families and their behavior in custody. And it seems from all accounts that their behavior in custody, even when they had that life without parole over their head, has been trying to not just improve themselves, but give back to the community within custody. So we'll see what the judge does. But I think the victim's family is the most important consideration in that. If they think he should be free, if they think that there's rehabilitation there, then isn't it for them to have the most weight when you go to court?
This is all very interesting stuff, Emily, and we really appreciate you taking the time. Can you please let my audience know where they can follow you, watch your show, all that fun stuff that you're putting out there?
Absolutely. At the Emily D. Baker, all over the internet. I do live streams on YouTube covering the trending and pop culture court cases and live trials. We just finished the Sarah Boone trial, 6 very long days in Florida to cover that case. And we've got Karen Reed coming up for trial again in January and some hearings going forward in that. And of course, all the Diddy stuff in both the long form live streams and on Quick Bits. So really, if you just download the Law Nerd app, which is my app, it'll let you know what I'm covering and where. So you're up to date on all the things legal.
Amazing. Well, we appreciate you. Can't wait
Good
to
to see
talk
you.
to you again, Emily.
Bye.
Talk to you soon. Have a
All
good
right,
one.
bye-bye.
Bye, everybody.
Woo! Great stuff.
Yeah.
Final thoughts on OC? I guess we'll reunion. So will you see is the reunion next week? Then?
Yep.
Next week, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Or this week.
3 parts, I'm guessing. So they'll cover
Well, we don't know if it's 3 parts
It
yet, I believe.
depends.
We don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like it
We
has
won't get to
be.
Jen. Is Jen going to be? This will be the last topic discussed on the season, right? They'll save it.
You would think so to keep people watching, yeah. But I think Jen is guaranteed to come back next season. So I say that just because people want her back. But
I think they're all going to be back. I hope they are.
It'll be sprinkled throughout. I find it hard to believe that Tamra's going to be
Yeah.
able to like not have a little dig at her at any chance she gets. Second that like the heat comes on Tamra, she's going to be like, yeah, well, what about the FBI?
Yeah.
No.
True.
I mean, for all the criticism we've leveled against Tamra, I still want her on my TV
Same.
screen.
No, 100%.
By all means.
I do
Yeah.
not want her off.
No, God no.
If
There's
she's
a
going to
professional-
learn how to
God
be,
no. Jesus. She's a great
if she's going to
housewife.
learn how to be a better person,
good
I want
without
to
her.
at least want to watch it.
Stop.
I'm good without Tamra. She's a good TV, but I'm good without.
But you
Heard
ride
it.
for Lisa.
I don't ride for Lisa. I just respect what she's done. I don't respect what Tamra has
Okay.
done.
Piece of shit garbage for her. She fucked half of New York. You ride for that. You respect that.
4 + 4. She ate.
Well, we respect you listening, and we will be back tomorrow. So no matter what is happening with the election, whether we have news or not, just know that if you need to break away from reality, we are here to give you the tea. And there is a lot to be discussed with Ashley and Tyler's relationship. Ashley brings all the receipts. She goes in great detail the conversation she's had with her now husband, Tyler, and the baby mama. It's an episode you will not want to miss. I promise you that. We are also back on Thursday. Jackie Tone from your favorite hit Netflix show, Nobody Wants Us, is with us on Thursday's reality recap. Plus, we'll be getting into Roni, some Bachelorette, and whatever else is going on in your headlines. We will be sure to cover it on Thursday. We'll see you then. Bye. Hey guys, if you loved what you listened to, make sure you hit that subscribe button below. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.